I hereby call the May 9th, 2022 annual town meeting of the town of Boxborough to order. This gentleman to the right of me is Town Council Jonathan Eichman from KP Law. As those of you who were at the special town meeting in February know, we have to do a little bit of special business tonight. Due to the resignation of the town clerk in advance of her term ending this May, the office of town clerk is now vacant. Under Mass General Law, Section 41, Chapter 14, the Select Board has the right to appoint a temporary clerk to handle all items of business except for town meeting. They have appointed Rebecca, a.k.a. Becky Harris, the wonderful person sitting next to me, to be that temporary clerk. However, we are a legislative body. The select people have no control over this body. Sometimes I wish they would, but they don't. Due to separation of powers, they cannot appoint a temporary clerk. You have to elect a temporary clerk for this meeting. Becky has graciously agreed to do that job. And if she's the only one who's nominated, we can get rid of this piece of business in about 5 minutes. If more than one person is nominated, we have to vote by ballot. So, again, if she's the only one nominated, we can do this pretty quickly. Do I have a nomination for Rebecca J. Harris to act as temporary town clerk for purposes of this meeting? Ms. Berlin.
Mr. Moderator, I nominate Rebecca J. Harris to act as temporary town clerk for the purposes of this meeting.
Can I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And are there any additional nominations? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, nominations are closed. Further hearing no objections, I declare that Rebecca J. Harris is the sole nominee for the position of temporary town clerk for this meeting. Do I hear a motion that the chair of the Select Board cast one ballot for Rebecca J. Harris?
I so move. Woo.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded that the chair of the Select Board cast one ballot for Rebecca J. Harris. Is there any discussion? Seeing no one at a microphone, all in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your hands. That motion carries unanimously. Would the chair of the Select Board please cast one ballot for Rebecca J. Harris for temporary town clerk? Would the members of the Select Board review the ballot cast by the chair? Would the clerk of the Select Board please report the results of the ballot?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the results of the balloting are 1 vote for Rebecca J. Harris and no votes for anyone else.
I hereby declare that Rebecca J. Harris has been elected temporary town clerk for this meeting using my powers under Mass General Law 41-107. I now swear her in as temporary town clerk. You are hereby notified that you have been elected to serve as temporary town clerk for the town of Boxborough from May 9th to 19th, 2022 at annual town meeting or until a successor is appointed by the town clerk. Do you swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform the duties incumbent on them in a aforesaid office?
I do.
Thank you. Now you can clap. Okay. Okay, before we get started, I would like to take your indulgence to make a few personal comments. As most of you know, this will be my 18th and last town meeting as your town moderator. I would like to thank you for the privilege of being your moderator and for all the cooperation that many, many, many people have given me. When I talk to other moderators at the annual convention, I tell them I've been fortunate to preside over meetings of intelligent and thoughtful people who listen to what is being said and take their job as legislators very seriously, and who usually conduct themselves in a pretty civil manner and keep focus on policy and keep personalities out of the debate. I sincerely hope I can continue to say that this year. My job as moderator is to make sure this meeting is run fairly. There's one set of rules and everybody follows them. Open, everybody gets a chance to say her or his piece. Civil, everybody is listened to in a respectful manner. One part of being civil is there is no applause or booing during discussion of articles. And relevant, discussion, motions, amendments must be within the four corners of what's in the warrant and on the floor. So I'm going to make some preliminary remarks. We're going to have some procedural motions, and then we'll get to the business. I hope you all have your copy of your warrant with you. If you do not have a copy of your warrant, wherever mine disappeared to, there are copies in the back. Everything we're going to talk about tonight is in this document. So if you don't have one, go get one. That was 104 pages long. There was a lot of work to put the warrant together. I'd like to thank Town Hall staff. I'd like to thank our temporary town clerk and a lot of volunteers who put it together. The 2021 town report is on the back table. Sort of interesting document. Again, thank the volunteers, thank the staff, thank Becky for putting that together. At the tables in the back of the room are the community preservation report, which is usually in the warrant. It's also the classification and compensation report. At the end of the Finance Committee report is at the end of the warrant. Very, 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 very important. We do not vote on what's in the warrant. We vote on the motions which are on the screen. 80% of the time, the motions and the articles in the warrant are the same, but sometimes they're not the same. Sometimes they're different, and it's important to listen to what the presenter says. So, no smoking in the hall or grounds by state law. Please shut off your electronic equipment or set them to silent. I have a smartphone for the first time in history, and I finally figured out how to silence it. It was a fight. Thank God for kids. AB is providing Wi-Fi access again this year. There's no password. It's AB Guest, or I think it's AB-Guest, actually. Non-voters over age 18 have to sit in the back. Refreshments at the back of the hall are being provided by the Boxborough Conservation Trust. They would appreciate a donation in return. Town meeting is tonight. If you approve the motion, it's going to be tomorrow night, Thursday, May 12th, depending upon how long you guys talk. It'll be next week, the 18th or the 19th. Our municipal election is Tuesday, May 17th, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 at night in the town hall. While there are no contested races, it is a show of support for those who bothered gathering the signatures and putting their name on the ballot that people come out and vote. It really does make people feel better when people actually come and vote, so please do that. I have lots and lots of announcements I will do during dead time. The one biggie, or two biggies, are we having Pfeiffer's Day this year? Pfeiffer's Day will take place on Saturday, June 18th at Flara Field. All the good games, all the stuff, all the food, the volleyball, the road race. And one of the big things, the second big announcement, is we are going to have Golden Fife and Parade Marshal this year. The Public Celebrations Committee has a box in the back of the room for nominations, a box at the library, and a box at Town Hall. Deadline for nominations are noon on May 20th, so you better hurry. Okay, could you please all stand for the Star Spangled Banner, sung by the Blanchard School Vocal Ensemble, led by Margie Callahan. This is something I really missed in the last 2 years.
Oh, say
Thank you. Allie and Lauren Mansfield Priest will now lead us in a voluntary Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think on these times we all have to remember that last line, liberty and justice for everybody. If you could join me in a moment of silence for those who have died in the last year from the town of Boxborough, from our armed services, from COVID, and for all forms of injustice. Thank you very much. We lost some good people during 2021 and 2022. Okay, cast of characters and guests. To my right of the Cotter Terenzini, Acting Town Administrator, and the Select Board, whom Mr. Folks will introduce.
Hello, I am Wes Folks, the Chair of the Select Board for right now. Next to me is Les Fox, not to be confused with Wes Folks. Very similar. We also have John Markowitz, followed by Diana Lapari and Jennifer Campbell, and our interim town administrator, Carter Terenzini.
Okay, in front of me is the Finance Committee.
Okay, I'm Becky Neville. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. To my left is Priya Sundaram, and then Gary Kushner and Maria Nealand, and we have two members not here tonight, Sachin Matur and Keshava Staravastava.
Okay, I would like to thank the Finance Committee for their service. I appoint them, and there are 9 members, but there are only 6. So if anybody's interested in being the Finance Committee, contact whoever's elected next week to succeed me. Sitting in front of me is the Planning Board. Would somebody like to introduce the members of the Planning Board?
Mark Barbadoro, and I've got over here is Rebecca Werner, and next to Rebecca is Janet Connolly, and then next to Janet is Mark White, and then Cindy Markowitz, and Robin Lazaro. And I want to thank Robin Lazaro for the years that she put in on the planning board, and she's going to be finishing up here, and we are very grateful for her service. Thanks.
And last but certainly not least, the Acton-Boxborough Regional School Committee, including some invited guests from the town of Acton.
Good evening. I'm Adam Klein. I'm chair of the Acton-Boxborough Regional School Committee. With us tonight, we have Tessa McKinley, Amy Krishnamurthy, Kira Wilson-Cook, John Peterson, our Director of Finance, Dave Verdolino, our Deputy Superintendent, Marie Altieri, and our Superintendent, Peter Light.
Okay, Rajan Hudson, our Assistant Town Administrator, and Kelly Price, our new TA for the Town Administrator, are going to be running the AV projector. Town Department Heads, there are lots of new faces. I'm going to miss some. Fire Chief Paul Philibron, it's around here someplace, down back. Lieutenant Warren O'Brien. Library Director Payshawn Bartley. Town Assessor Linda McQuaid. Council on Aging Coordinator Kim D. Okay, Lieutenant O'Brien is retiring as of June 30th, and I'd like to thank him on behalf of the town for his 20 years of keeping us all safe. Thank you very much. I would like to take this moment to recognize Cheryl Mahoney's service at Town Hall for 15 years and at town meeting. This is her first year doing nothing at town meeting, so she's probably going to really enjoy it. She's hiding here someplace. Littleton Community Television is broadcasting this meeting live and for later rebroadcast. I'd like to thank Kirby Dolak, their production supervisor, and Judy Reed, Rob Corey, Dave Estolaffi, and Diane Douglas. I'd like to thank the Acton-Boxborough Regional School Tech Team, especially Amy Bischkowitz, for everything to provide technical assistance and Wi-Fi. Thank Blanchard, our landlord, so to speak, for the week, Blanchard School's principal, Dana Lab, for being our host, and Dan Rawls and his staff, and to Ed Kukla and the DPW for setting up all the room and all the chairs. It's not as easy as it looks to get this room set up. In addition to our paid staff, one reason this town runs well is the dedication of literally hundreds of volunteers, many of whom are in this audience, who generously contribute countless hours. We owe a debt of gratitude to every single one of you. I'd like to recognize 2 long-service volunteers who are stepping down this year. Brian Lynch, I'm not sure if he's here, was elected to the Planning Board in 1976, the Board of Health in 2000, and he's been on numerous other committees, especially in the water resources, and I don't know if he's here tonight, but he's somebody who's done an awful lot for this town, and Janet Glidden has been a library trustee for over 20 years. Okay, this is town meeting. It's not a public comment section of the select board, planning board, public forum, public hearing. The only things you get to discuss are things that are in the warrant. You are a legislature. You collectively approve our expenses, vote on our capital expenses, approve bylaws, determine land use, and lots of other stuff. I am elected as your moderator. I follow town meeting time, handbook of parliamentary procedure, prepared by mass moderators for town meetings. If you want to stay, if you're having trouble staying awake or having trouble not falling asleep, you can get it from the library. There's a 4-page guide for residents in the back of the room. When you walked in, you all got a 1-page handout, which is the crib sheet. I'm not going to read what's in the crib sheet. There are 5 key points. To be recognized, you have to be at one of the 2 microphones. There are 2 microphones, one on either side. You're limited to 3 minutes, and we run a clock. All discussion must be to the issues at hand and civil. I will call for a vote if there's no one standing at the microphone. So if there's nobody at a microphone, we're going to vote. One thing that I must admit I'm a little probably paranoid about, if you're walking around, I have no idea if you're coming to a microphone, visiting the restroom, getting some food. So please be at a mic if you want to speak, because otherwise I don't know you want to speak. Behind the microphone, each mic, there are 5 sandy-colored chairs. Those chairs are reserved for speakers. So if anybody's sitting in a sandy-colored chair, please move over a little bit. If someone wants to end debate, and there are still people, which you can do if there's still people standing at the microphones, you get in line, you go to a microphone, and you say, I move the question. We then will immediately vote on whether to start voting. If anybody has a question about process, that's the only time you can talk outside of a microphone. Stand up and say, Mr. Moderator, I have a point of order in a loud voice, and then tell me what your question is about process. That's only questions about process. Please keep the discussion civil and disagree without being disagreeable. And now I am going to be quiet. We do not have a big process bylaw. So each town meeting needs to make its own rules. So the chair of the select board are going to propose a few items. Mr. Folks.
So I move to set the dates and not start new articles after 10:30 p.m.
Could we put that? Up a little bit. Go up. Oh, there. Oh, there we go. Yep. Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that the adjourned sections of this town meeting be held on Tuesday, Thursday, next Wednesday, and the Thursday after that. They start at 7 p.m., and that we will not begin debate on any new motion after 10:30 p.m. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes?
Mr. Moderator, Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. I thought it was 10 p.m. I mean,
It's been 10:30 for about 35 years.
only 35 years?
I've only been in town for 38 years.
Yeah, but somehow I thought it was, I guess I get up and leave at 10. That's probably what I do. But, well, what do you think? Is 10 o'clock all right? Can I suggest that we stop at 10? I mean, that's late enough, isn't it? By the time you get home, it's 10:30. You're going to miss the 10 o'clock news.
Are you making a motion to amend that to 10 o'clock?
Well, on behalf of all the seniors, yes. Let's try it.
Okay, it's been moved and second that 10 o'clock. Would anyone else like to? I think you've discussed it.
Yeah, I think so.
Does
Thank you.
anyone else like to discuss that? All in favor? We are now voting only on the amendment to 10 o'clock. Okay, all in favor of 10 o'clock? Thank you very much. All opposed? That motion carries, so we're going to not pick up a new item. So we're now voting for a motion to do 10. Are there any comments on the motion with 10 p.m.? Seeing no comments, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor of the motion as amended? Thank you. All opposed? That motion carries by a majority. Motion on article on reconsideration. Motion on reconsideration. Mr. Fox.
So I move that once final action has been taken on an article and the next order of business has been taken up, or the session of the annual town meeting has been adjourned, the article may not again be considered for the annual town meeting unless the moderator determines in his discretion that reconsideration would be in the best interest of the voters.
Is there a second? Second. Seeing no one in a microphone, I will take a vote on that motion. All in favor, please raise your cards. All opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, that motion carries by a majority. Motion on temporary moderator. I am presenting Article 22, so basically there needs to be somebody presiding over this meeting. Mr. Reap is the only one on the ballot for the position of moderator, so I have asked him if he is willing to serve, and he indicated that he would.
So I move that Dennis Reap be elected temporary moderator to preside over this meeting during Article 22 and at other times during this meeting as determined by the moderator.
It's moved and second. Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, raise your cards. That motion carries by a majority. Okay. One of Boxborough has a tradition of scheduling items that people think, specifically the select board thinks would have a large appeal for the first thing on the second night. At a select board meeting about 3 weeks ago, the select board came up with the recommendation, which is on the board. Basically, we would start next session of this meeting, which would be tomorrow night, with Article 22 and 23. Article 22 is the budget process. Article 23 is Sergeant Road. And the compromise was to start with 22, go with that for 45 minutes, and then start 23, and when 23 is done, then go back to 22. So this is the motion that Mr. Chair of the Select Board is going to read.
So I move that Article 22 be taken up as the first article on Tuesday, May 10th, and Article 23 be taken up as the second article on Tuesday, May 10th, and that further, that if debate on Article 22 extends to 7:45 p.m., Article 22 shall be tabled until the debate and vote on Article 23 is completed, and then Article 22 shall be taken off the table and debate recommenced on that article.
Is there a second? Seeing no one in a microphone, I am going to ask for a vote. All in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That appears to carry unanimously, which is more than the 2/3 vote that is necessary. Thank you very much for your patience. Could I have a motion under Article 2?
I move that the town vote to receive the reports of the Select Board and other town officers, agents, and committees, including those published in the 2021 Annual Town Report.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the town vote to receive the reports of the Select Board and other town officers, agents, including those published in the wonderful 2021 report, which is on the table in the back of the room. Seeing nobody at a microphone, could I have a vote on that article? All in favor, please raise your cards. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries unanimously. This year, we will have 3 reports under this article. These are state of the town reports. We are receiving these reports. We are not accepting or approving them. There will be no questions. In order to mix it up a little bit, why don't we have the planning board go first? You mean now? Yeah. Well, usually we have the select board go first and then the school committee. Why don't we let you guys go first for a change? The important board should go first. I am being neutral in that question, but go ahead.
Microphone here?
Yep.
Okay. Take a second here. And I haven't even gotten started.
We're good.
Okay, Planning Board General Report. The Planning Board has had a very productive year since the beginning of the fiscal year last July. We have been extremely busy, including approval of several new developments and redevelopment projects. Some of the highlights of the past year include the following. Issuance of a site plan approval for Aranta Bio, the second biopharmaceutical company that will occupy approximately 130,000 square feet at the former Cisco facility at 1414 Mass Ave. The site plan decision for Aranta Bio and Vibologics at 1414 allow for the biopharmaceutical companies and the trucking of all processed water off-site. Also required improvements in landscaping and drainage around the site. Recent sales data indicated that the building recently sold for $76 million, in excess of the purchase price 5 years earlier in 2017 of $6.25 million. The issuance of site plan modifications for both Aranta Bio and Vibologics for the exterior site work associated with wastewater holding tank at 1414 Mass Ave. The Planning Board required that all processed water be trucked off-site by a licensed wastewater contractor to ensure that no processed water would be disposed of in the town's aquifer. We reviewed and issued favorable subdivision decisions for 2 new homes at the end of Priest Lane on the property that was formerly part of the town center zone land as part of an agreement. Currently reviewing site plan and special permits for 3 two-family dwelling units, proposed new development at Granite Hill, at Mass Ave and Sarah's Way. Reviewing application materials for redevelopment of 60 Codman Hill for a potential warehouse distribution center. That's coming soon to the Planning Board in the next month. The Planning Board heard 2 separate preliminary development proposals for properties at 242 Adams Place, 244 Adams Place, and provided feedback to the applicants on their proposed projects. We reviewed and endorsed approvals not required under the Subdivision Control Act, ongoing review and landscaping and paving and stormwater-related activities, and other compliance items at the Enclave project. We reviewed several public shade tree and stone wall removal applications. We reviewed and recommended the town accept Taylor Farm Road as a public way while retaining a modest amount of funds for the tri-party agreement to ensure compliance with the other town requirements. We formed a working group to work with members of the Sustainability Committee to bring 2 solar bylaws to this town meeting. Multiple meetings incorporating comments and concerns, and numerous working drafts were developed to bring two well-crafted, compromised solar bylaws to this town meeting. We submitted a joint letter with the Select Board to the Massachusetts Department of Community and Housing Development regarding draft regulations for zoning for multifamily housing units as required under the recently approved legislation Economic Development Bill, with specific concerns and recommendations on how the regulations could be improved for Boxborough. We continued work with an outside consultant towards recodifying a zoning bylaw, or actually the zoning bylaw of Boxborough, to address technical deficiencies and improvements in the zoning bylaw and to make clearer and make it more user-friendly. While the board hoped to bring the revisions to this town meeting, we decided that it wasn't ready yet and we still have work to do on it, so we're going to bring it at the next town meeting probably. We worked with the town's stormwater consultant to draft stormwater rules and regulations and to modify the recently approved stormwater bylaw for construction and post-construction activities. Such regulations will include the implementation of stormwater management processes to ensure that the land disturbance that exceeds over an acre will minimize all impacts due to erosion and protect the town wetlands and waterways. We continue to update the Planning Board Resource Library and to update the list of current projects and applications on the Planning Board website for public access. We developed a template for boards and committees to use to update the status of the master plan action items and posted this information on the town website. We worked with the interim town administrator for improvements to support the planning board, culminating with the ITA's recommendation for a new Office of Land Use and Permitting. We participated in Boxborough Leadership Forum monthly, held 20 public meetings in the last 12 months, and made several site visits. We appointed an associate member who can sit on certain applications when designated. Our planning board members represented the planning board on other committees and attending their meetings. These included Community Preservation, Design Review Board, Economic Development Committee, Water Resources Committee, Regional and Sub-Regional Planning Activities, which is called MAGIC and MAPC for short, Small Cell Committee with Littleton Light and Electric. We encourage members of the public to attend our meetings, which are generally held twice a month on Monday evenings and are broadcast on BXB On Demand. Thank you.
School Committee.
Okay. Good evening. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Adam Klein, Chair of the Acton-Boxborough Regional School Committee. I want to thank our members here this evening with a special thanks to our departing members, Nora Shine and John Peterson. And also welcome to our new members, Rebecca Wilson and Liz Folks. I'm going to start this presentation with an overview of our transition back to full-time, in-person schooling, then share an update on the school building project and review our budget for next year. This year, we were happy to welcome our 5,400 students back to full-week in-person learning across our 9 schools. As a point of reference, the 385 freshmen who entered the high school this year had their last normal full year of school in 6th grade. We are so proud that we were able to provide a safe, in-person experience for our students this year. This was in no small part due to the district employees who worked hard behind the scenes. I want to especially thank our nursing staff and administrators for their work on testing and contact tracing, as well as a big thanks to Don Bentley, our nurse leaders, and the town nurses and fire departments for coordinating the 5 vaccination clinics. Thanks, Don. On to an update of the Boardwalk campus. This fall, the school committee voted to name the Boardwalk campus in recognition that the Boardwalk has been a place that students would visit to study the changing seasons, environment, ecology, etc. It also has been a connector between Douglas and Gates. It is a great way to represent the unity of both Douglas, Gates, and now the Huebner Preschool. As you see here, we are still on track to move into the building this summer and start next year in this amazing facility. The project will continue for another year as we convert the existing Douglas and Gates schools into new playfields and solar panel covered parking. Speaking of solar panels, the new building is a great representation of our community's values. In addition to the diversity of the workforce you see here, our architect, Arrow Street, is also a 12% minority-owned and 8.5% women-owned business. I'd also like to highlight that we are even using Boxborough-based contractors for some of the work. We plan to be a triple net zero building. That means, in addition to net zero energy usage, the building will also have net zero water and net zero waste. We are excited that, upon completion, this will be the cleanest, healthiest, and most sustainable zero-carbon school building in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. A big thanks to all of the members of the building committee, including Mary Brolin, chair of the committee. Finally, I want to highlight that the project continues to be both on time and on budget. Speaking of budget, I'd like to share the details of the school budget for FY23. First, I want to recognize that while the schools represent two towns, we are still one community. As a school committee, we are keenly aware that it is you who fund our budgets. We take that responsibility seriously and strive to be good stewards of those funds. We kept this at the forefront of our budgeting process and will do so in the coming years. Given the challenging environment and disruption of the pandemic, we need to meet our students' evolving needs. We began budget planning in the fall, and there were several assumptions we took into account. We had to plan for volatility. This could be in the form of inflation, unemployment, and unknown town, state, and federal funding programs. The schools were seeing and continue to see varied and extensive student needs coming out of the pandemic. We received early guidance that after several below-average years, there would be a significant increase in healthcare costs. We knew that we would need to use our reserve funds to help support these extraordinary times. And as mentioned before, we knew we needed to be sensitive to our community's ability to fund our needs. Given the challenges and assumptions, the school committee felt it was important to hold fast to our long-term goals while addressing the most important short-term needs. We continue to implement the multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. This is a data-driven system for ensuring robust supports for all students' social, emotional, and academic needs. As I've mentioned, we saw varied and extensive needs post-pandemic. We've prioritized both academic and social emotional support for our students and families. It was important to rebuild the revolving accounts that were greatly impacted by the pandemic. These funds support various facets of our community, such as community education, school lunch, athletics, and kindergarten. While these accounts are reserved for specific purposes, should they fall short, that would adversely impact our operating budget. Finally, we work to expedite our transition to free all-day kindergarten. The strategies we put to use to reach our final budget focused on three key areas. The first was to reduce expenses. We reduced our staff by 20.5 full-time equivalent employees. We also made reductions to departmental and building budgets. Next, we looked at shifting resources. We reduced an assistant superintendent position to a director-level position and reallocated duties for central office staff. Some assignments were made to share staff across multiple schools. Finally, we increased our budgeted use of reserves to $1.8 million in FY23. There are several items we believe were short-term costs and could be addressed with the use of these reserves. We do, however, recognize this level of reserve use is not a sustainable long-term strategy. I do want to take a moment here to address some concerns the community might have about costs related to the new mascot. There are no additional funds in this budget to cover uniform replacement above what is traditionally planned for on an annual basis. Every year, there is a planned replacement of some uniforms in the operating budget. That is unchanged for this year. The same is true for facilities. We are in the process of having our administration conduct an assessment of the various facilities that use the name of the retired mascot, and will have more information when this is complete and a new mascot has been selected. These items will be addressed as part of our regular maintenance. The final budget for FY23 is $102,899,440. This represents a 3.19% increase over the FY22 budget. After revenues and use of reserves, the final assessment to the towns is $82,946,929. Boxborough's share of this is $13,257,674, an increase of 4.59% over FY22. Looking at the table here, the FY23 increase of 3.19% continues our history of fiscal responsibility by managing annual budget increases to about 3%. You'll note the FY21 increase in the table shows both an operating budget and the first year of the Boardwalk campus debt. The actual operating budget increase in FY21 was 2.73%. Finally, Boxborough's average increase over the past 5 years is 2.76%. As a reminder, our share of the budget is calculated on a rolling 3-year average of students enrolled in the district. As our school-aged population increases, our assessment will do so as well. With that, I want to thank the town of Boxborough for your continued support of our school district and students. Thank you.
Select Board report.
Oh boy, it disappeared. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Wes. Most of you probably know me, or you will by the end of the night. So I'm here to give the Select Board annual report. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming. This is actually an important function in our town, that everybody is coming to town meeting, and so I greatly appreciate it, along with the rest of the Select Board. Additionally, I would like to thank our town staff, the police department, the fire department, DPW, and all the volunteers and boards and committees that help our town on the day-to-day basis. And so if I said that this year was easy, everything was great, that would be a lie. And so there's a lot more people here tonight than are on most of our select board meetings, and so unless everybody runs for the door, I have somewhat of a captive audience. And so I guess I want to address a lot of the concerns that we as a select board have been receiving via email during this. And so what I will say is that right now, for lack of a better term, Boxborough has had a transition year. And so the select board has been working to rejuvenate Boxborough with purpose and intent. We have gotten quite a few messages from concerned residents that the select board is doing nothing about the turnover at town hall. And so I will address this. So with what I can share. We have had some staff, so 2 members have left Massachusetts altogether. I don't know if that's because of, for whatever reason, some of them, just like the sunny slopes of Colorado, and others for other reasons. Additionally, last year at town meeting, or before, in preparation for town meeting, at one of the select board meetings, the town administrator was presenting an additional staff position, and the treasurer collector and the town accountant at the time requested a support staff. And at that time, the select board said, no to that position, and in response, those 2 employees said that they would likely not last 3 more months if they did not get more support. Again, I was part of that select board, and I take responsibility for that. And we had asked the town administrator to see if they could look at a staffing plan and/or moving around staff to fulfill the needs within town hall. Shortly after, they left. So that is 2 people. Additionally, at another select board meeting, and I'm bringing this to everybody's attention because typically we get about 28 people to these meetings. And now we have significant more. Additionally, at another meeting, we had 2 employees, or the person, and I'll give this next story, and please do not assume negative intent. But I use this as an illustration to show where we are as a set of actions that have been decided, and not to place blame, but to make people aware of what happens on these Monday meetings at 7:30 or whenever they are. But so at one of our select board meetings this year, 2 employees were asked to be reclassified and regraded for their position for additional work which is not wrong. They were doing work above and beyond what their position asked for, and that is actually what the town has been requesting of people at town hall. And I do not know if that is sustainable, and I actually do not believe that is sustainable. However, the personnel board at the time requested that the select board approve this reclassification and regrading. Additionally, at that time, the select board had requested the interim town administrator to put together a staffing report following the previous requests for new staff from the accountant and the treasurer collector. You saw the select board bring to the special town meeting the additional staff, and I'm very grateful for people for approving that. However, at this meeting, when we were discussing the reclassification and regrading, one of the employees was not too happy because for 4 years they had been asking the personnel board to be reclassified and regraded to acknowledge the additional work that they were doing. And so that person left shortly after for another wonderful job. These are all wonderful people, but additionally, a lot of people here are more used to private companies. This is municipal. We can't offer people counter offers because that's not how we budget. We can't do a lot of other things that most people would generally assume that we could do, and we don't have a lot of tools and/or leverage. And so part of this is what we'll be talking about later in terms of retaining and attracting talent. And so to say that the select board has done nothing, I'm not sure, or I can't agree with that. And so I wanted to make everybody aware of this. And so with that being said, I will say that the additional people and the new people and the existing people that we have are actually phenomenal. They care so much about this town. I don't know if there's a way that I can convey that. And I am so happy and excited for the potential and just the energy and excitement that people bring on the daily basis. And so with that being said, I also want to highlight a point that we can only execute as a town and town hall and other departments with the resources that we have. And that's not to say that the resources are inadequate or the people are inadequate, but that there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of pulls that a lot of people don't see, and so that we need to, in the short term, prioritize a lot of this work. And sometimes things fall through, or we just are not able to address everything all at once. And so I also wanted to spread some gratitude for the people who have been patient and understanding with people in town hall, because it is not easy. There's been a lot of stuff that's been brought to the forefront about what has not been done previously, by no fault of anybody, but just through different things, and a lot of that just came to a head this year. And so thank you to everybody for being understanding, and I hope that people continue to be understanding moving forward. Additionally, I wanted to speak about the fiduciary duty and responsibility. So the select board and all other boards and committees, elected or appointed, have a moral or ethical and legal obligation to put the town's interests ahead of their personal interests when operating as a member of a board or committee. With that being said, there's also a lot of stuff that the select board and some of the other boards cannot discuss publicly. Myself, and I'm sure that the other board members would agree with me, but for other matters, town employees deserve to have personal employment issues remain private. And you see this in the private sector, but for some reason, that is not apparently applied to the public sector, but you'll see that the select board has been very respectful of issues that arise. And lastly, I kind of want to focus on the path forward. As I said before, I am extremely pleased with the staff that we have at Town Hall. You will see us asking for more support because we are looking to provide some stability, provide redundancy, and address some of the issues. And so one of the things, as we move towards being more deliberate about building Boxborough, and as we move towards building out a professional staff, some of the things that motivate professionals, myself included, is the ability to have autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And so I would argue that those same principles apply to the people that we currently have and the people that we are in the process of acquiring at Town Hall. And so another thing that I just want to make people aware of is that I think that there's from my observation, there's a shift in the employment marketplace. And so we as a town need to start looking at where we previously had institutional knowledge and work towards more of a organization that can support people doing tours of service. Where what I mean by that is having people with the expectation that they will serve the town for 2 to 3 years and be grateful for any years more than that they give us. But how do we orient and organize this organization, which is the town, to provide growth opportunities for the people that choose to come here and work for the town? And how do we enable them to provide the most benefit for the town? Because it's a two-way street. And so I guess one of the things is saying yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. And that's why it's called the present. And another way of saying that is the past is the past. And we can't necessarily go back to what we had or what the good old days were, but we need to recognize and we need to adapt. And we also need to understand, or institutions that fail to change will fail to survive. And I recognize that change is not easy. Deviating from what has been, it's not easy. But we need to move deliberately as a town. And with that said, I will say, let's have a full and spirited debate. But please keep in mind that Rajan, our wonderful assistant town administrator, is getting married on Friday. And we will all have to answer to his fiance if this goes on too long. And so I do have one more part of my presentation. However, I would ask to table it until 8 o'clock to resume it, if that is all right.
Okay, that's the end of Article 2. We're now in Article 3. Article 3 is on page 9 of your warrant. Could I have a motion under Article 3?
It's me again. I move that the town vote to fix the salaries and compensation of various elected officials for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 as follows. Select board members, $400 per year, per member per year. Board of Health members, $200 per member per year. Town clerk, $65,250. Constables, $3 each copy of the warrant posted. Planning board members, $400 each member each year. Boxborough members of the AB Regional School Committee, $400 per member per year. Library Board of Trustees, $200 per member per year. And the town moderator, $100 per year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Select Board?
So the majority of the select board recommends this article. However, one person, myself, does not. Mainly because I do believe that these salaries would be put to better use within the town budget to put on events and other items for members of the town hall staff and other staff within the town. However, the select board has agreed to forego taking their stipends and this FinCom has respectfully allowed us to keep that in the budget this year. And so yeah, that's all.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends unanimously.
Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries by a majority. Okay, Article 4 is a little complicated, so I would suggest everybody turn to page 10 in your warrant. It's a very nice summary done by the Personnel Board about what's going on here. There will be 3 votes taken under Article 4 to make things easier to explain and to vote on. Ms. Sheila Bauer, Chair of the Personnel Committee.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sheila Bauer. I'm the chair of the Personnel Board. And as John was saying, we have 3 votes tonight, and there's sort of, so I'm just going to walk through, sort of summarize them as we go along. So the first is on administrative changes to the plan. First, there are various grammatical and clarifying changes made throughout the document. However, specifically in Article 5, the position and classification plan under Section 3 and 3A, you'll see here the changes specifically are in red. And I'm just going to, so I don't have to turn away from the mic, I'm going to just look on my phone. So we've added the word, under Section 2, promotion. So currently it says promotion, we're adding the word or reclassifications. And under item B, it's deleted in its entirety and replaced with when an employee is promoted or the position they hold is reclassified to a position in a higher class, the employee's salary shall be increased to the minimum rate for the higher class. In the case of overlapping ranges, the promoted or reclassified employee shall be increased to the step immediately above the employee's present step. Okay? The next article affected, sort of has more significant changes, is Article 6 underneath the pay plan. And this is inserting new language. This, again, it's striking out what you see in the warrant and inserting the employee step advancement occurs annually, provided that annual reviews have been submitted pursuant to the employee handbook by June 1st. Up until now, employees, every year, employees are potentially awarded a step increase based on a vote at town meeting. And this would mean that employees would receive the step when they come to their anniversary, but also meet the guidelines as laid out in the employee handbook on the annual employee review, on an annual review. They would have to meet a proficient guideline, a proficient rating, and those reviews would be submitted to. Again, it's outlined in the employee handbook, which is on the website. Okay, so then the next section that has significant language changes is is inserting a new section, Section 11. It's still under the pay plan, which is Article 6 still, temporary out-of-grade work, and that is inserting the language that whenever at the direction of the town administrator or at the direction of the department head with the consent of the town administrator, an employee is assigned tasks and responsibilities for a period of more than 10 business days which are normally and ordinarily performed by another employee in a higher grade, and which are not among those tasks and responsibilities that the employee would normally and ordinarily be expected to perform under the terms and conditions of the job description for their position, the employee shall be paid an additional 5% of their base pay for the period of time beyond 10 business days that they perform the out-of-grade tasks and responsibilities, provided, however, that in no case shall they be paid more than the top step of the higher grade position, which would normally and ordinarily carry out such tasks and responsibilities. So basically what this language is doing is allowing for there to be a way for, if somebody if an employee is filling in for an employee at a higher grade, that the employee would have, there's a mechanism by which the employee can be paid for this out-of-grade work. Okay, so then the next section is under Article 11, under leaves of absence. There's proposed new language under Section 1, Item A, and that would be that it's inserting language that currently it reads each regular full-time and regular reduced hours, and we are inserting and regular part-time employee shall be entitled to 1 day of the same number of hours as regularly worked. So, and part-time employee will be defined as at least 19 hours per week. Okay, so those are the sort of substantial, like not non-grammatical commas and whatnot changes in the personnel plan that we're proposing. So are there any questions about that?
Finance Committee recommendation.
On vote 1, Finance Committee recommends the majority.
Excuse me, we have, what we do is someone makes a motion, then the Finance Committee gives the recommendation, then the Select Board, and then we go to the audience. Because before people ask questions, we want them to know what other people who've studied it think about it. And then you're going to be next.
On vote 1, the majority of the Finance Committee recommends. The Finance Committee supports the proposed changes in the language of the personnel plan as described in the warrant. The minority of the FinCom voted against. The retirement contributions is increasing at the rate of better than 10% year over year and is projected to become the second biggest line item, only below the school budget, in the next 6 years. Adding automatic steps will only worsen the situation and will lead to a significant tax increase to the town. On vote 2, the Finance Committee...
That's vote. We're only doing one. Only doing one. Okay. Select Board recommendation on vote 1.
The Select Board recommends this.
Okay. Just to remind people and new people, what we do is we take questions from the audience. We alternate back and forth on microphones. When you stand up, please give your name and address so the town clerk knows who you are. Over there, ma'am. No, that's perfectly all right. Enthusiasm is wonderful.
How's this? Oops. Okay. Rosemary Sedgwick, 612 Hill Road. I want to say, first of all, I really appreciate the presentation by, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, but then you gave us the whole meeting to remember it. Select Board.
Wes.
Wes? Okay. Okay, Wes. The honesty seemed, and laying out in detail as far as you could what was going on with the town hall staff. And my question is, do you think this new provision of 5% after 10 days, so figure, say, I mean, just for example, somebody makes $50 an hour basically, and they get 5% of that, which would be what, $250 or something like that. Is that going to make a difference to these people who feel that they are working too hard for too little? I mean, anybody on the select committee, whatever.
So,
I can also answer.
what?
I can also answer.
Okay, so I would say that, I mean, it's a step in the right, or at least in my opinion, a step in the right direction, but Sheila also can answer because this was their proposal, but I do believe that this would help.
So also, Rosemary, this is this would be for temporary, temporary work. So if this is for somebody, if somebody's filling in for somebody who's absent, right? So so if
it's not long term.
it's not a long term, so it's not, so the way that the document that reflects the pay is this document. It was actually on the back table. So you can see the pay, but there's 2.5 percentage points approximately between each step. And then we'll talk in the next vote about the overall wage increase. But yeah, that's.
I'm just wondering about an internship program, but I'm just going to let that take that on.
Sir? Hi. Ooh, wow. Jim Camoli, 451 Sergeant Road. There seems to be a lot of language taken out about the proficient part and like where the employee rating occurs. That's in the employee's handbook, you said?
Correct.
Okay, so it still has to be at a minimum level for them.
Correct. That's to make it, to not make the personnel plan itself too prescriptive, because this is more of a legal document and we don't have a lot of agility when it comes to the personnel plan itself. So the employee handbook gives us a little bit more, flexibility in terms of what we want we don't want to put a whole, here's an employee review process into the personnel plan.
Okay, thanks. And then the next part with the out of grade work, it seems to be still just one person that determines that. And seeing as how there was some conflict about that before, does it make sense to have an appeals process or some other thing where if they don't agree, then something else can happen? Because it seems like that created some issues last time.
Right. So there's two different things. So this out of grade work is pretty clearly recognized. It's not like all of a sudden this person is suddenly doing work that this would be okay, this is probably going to be a bad example, but the town clerk is gone for a month for whatever reason, and the assistant town clerk fills in for her. So now she's filling in for more than so if somebody goes on vacation, right, and you're the assistant town clerk and the town clerk goes on vacation, okay, there's an expectation, okay, well, I'm going to do a few extra tasks that's why it's 10 days, right? So, okay, I'm going to do a few extra tasks because that person's on vacation or they're sick, they have a few sick days. But if they're going to be gone for an extended period of time, there needs to be a mechanism to compensate that person for really truly stepping into another role, more or less. What Wes was referring to is when, maybe if we don't have enough staff, and then and this gets a little more complicated, but if we don't have enough staff, say at town hall, then different people are doing things that maybe aren't in their job description, and that's not because somebody isn't there. There's still, a town clerk and an assistant town clerk, but maybe there needs to be yet another person in that office to support the work that's coming in, right? So now all of a sudden you might have somebody saying well, wait a minute, my job description no longer fits this other job, the job description I started with, and it no longer fits this, grade whatever, 10, and now I'm a grade whatever, 12 or something. So there might be that sort of discussion, so it's sort of two different things. Does that make sense, Jim?
Sort of.
Okay. Clear as mud, right?
Point
Sorry.
of order real quick? Or,
Yeah.
Seeing as it is after 8, would it be all right if the select board just quickly, briefly finishes up their presentation?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to invite Jamie Eldridge and Dan Cena up here to help me finish the select board presentation. Also, I would like to apologize for forgetting the library. We thank them.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much to Wes for giving myself and Representative Cena a brief break to say a few words. And obviously I know town meeting's looks like it's gonna go a bit long. Forgive me. As the state senator for Boxborough, I wanted to come here to pay tribute to someone who has been an incredible public servant, and I would say probably one of the best public servants that Boxborough has ever had, who has just given back on so many committees, and of course over the past 15, well over the past 15 years as your town moderator, John Fallon. So, John and I have known each other extremely well, and obviously he's doing his job right now, so I'm not sure if you're able to come down, John. Are you able to? Okay. But I would just say that John, again, serving on 9 boards and committees since 1993, have tremendous respect, John, for your incredible public service. And I will say, as the state representative for Boxborough for 6 years and now the state senator for 14 years, one of the things I really appreciate is any event going on in the community, John emails me personally to let me know about it, and that's so important in a small town for legislators to know the different events that are going on to make sure we can best represent the interests of the people of Boxborough. So, John, I have a citation here, and I just want to say, incredibly appreciate our friendship and your partnership on so many things that make Boxborough so special. So I have a citation. If you want to stand next to me, I can present it. And it says, "Be it hereby known that the..." come on up. "Be it hereby known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to John Fallon in recognition of your dedicated service to the town of Boxborough for serving on 9 boards and committees since 1993, including as the town moderator since 2005. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success." This is signed Senate President Karen Spilka and your state senator and friend, Jamie Eldridge. Thank you so much.
Well, good evening, everyone. Losing my voice. It's great to be here with you all this evening. It's certainly for the same occasion why Senator Eldridge is here. I also brought a house citation for John Fallon. And I really, on behalf of the residents of Boxborough, I want to thank you, John, for your outstanding service. 3 decades, 30 years, certainly you have given part of your life and through your work to the town. So I'm really humble and proud of your service, and certainly want to present you with a house citation. Be hereby known that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to John Fallon in recognition of your service to the town of Boxborough on 9 boards of committees since 1993, including serving as town moderator since 2005. And the entire House extends its best wishes to you and your family. And I have a house citation signed today by myself and the Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I know you guys are very busy. Okay, I think we were over there.
It's hard to go second after that. I'm Patricia Brunker, 354 Burroughs Road. So I have my question is basically about the definition of the term temporary here, because it seems that it's defined as a minimum of 10 days is the minimum end, but I'm concerned that there doesn't seem to be a definition for the duration, the maximum duration, specifically because if there is a situation where a staff member is filling in for someone of a higher qualification for a prolonged period of time, what is the incentive for the town to go ahead and make that higher for the appropriate level that's being covered, so that the functions that the person's primary job description is actually fulfilled properly?
Right. Well, I would say, I mean, so I understand what you're saying, that there's no sort of end date, like there's no maximum, but, well, the incentive would certainly be that we need to be fully staffed for the town, for the town to run properly.
But there's
so I
no
think that's the
incentive, is what I mean, for them. If you can just go ahead and pay someone an extra 5% and the work will get done, what is the incentive for the town to actually fill the position that is vacant for a prolonged period of time? Because there is no end to when this would end.
Do you want to, yeah.
So I'll let, if it's all right,
I think
I'd like
Carter wanted to-
Carter to respond.
We can pass the mic.
It's always, Carter Terenzini, interim town administrator. It's always difficult to know the duration because it relies to some extent upon why that vacancy has occurred. Is it a long-term illness? Is it a long-term disability, which that employee may be experiencing? They may have a substantial amount of sick leave and a right to return to their job. It can also rely upon the job market. I believe about 2.5 years ago, you actually had a vacancy in one office for almost 8 months because the recruitment process the first time around failed, and when it was started up again, that is the continuum amount of time. Let me tell you the incentive for management to try to get the upper position filled. First is that the person doing the work may not have the full skill set that is needed. And we need that skill set, whether it's a town treasurer that knows how to place debt. I had to place the last debt because no one knew how to do it. Whether it is the DPW director, where the highway foreman may not have the full knowledge of the Chapter 90 program. So we're missing a great deal of knowledge during the time we're not getting the job filled. And the other thing is, when we had one employee recently who had to step in, and they're in the audience with you, they did a tremendous job. They really kept us afloat for probably close to 5 months. It develops a wear and tear on them physically, emotionally, and mentally. And that's not something we really want. We appreciate the fact that they bear with us, that they helped us through that period, but that's not something that we want our employees to have to carry. So with the addition of this provision for out-of-grade pay, which does not exist in the current plan at all, it's a recognition of our employees for going above and beyond. It's a modest amount of money towards them, and I think that I would urge you to consider giving it your support.
I still have 2 minutes, right? So thank you for that. I'm concerned that if someone is being burned out as you're describing there, that in fact, if you don't have an opportunity for a formal provision for a reassessment, that in fact burns them out even more. It kind of perpetuates a model where they continue with this provision has no, at least it's not written here, maybe it's somewhere else in the articles, and I don't know. Can you direct us to where that might be, where there's an opportunity to reevaluate the situation rather than have it continue ad infinitum?
So, I mean, the article, the intent of the article is really to provide a way of compensating somebody who's kind of being asked to serve outside of their normal and customary responsibility. So it's not meant to pay somebody a promotion long term. So I mean, it's really. The intention. The intention is certainly to fit, as Carter was saying, to fill the full-time position.
It's not written as such. Thank you.
So I guess to make an additional point, so for example, like FMLA, we have to protect those positions. If somebody gets called into active duty, we cannot give that position away. And so additionally, on top of that, if the job does become available and become open, people are inclined to apply for that if they so choose. And so this does not prohibit them from that, but it also protects the town, because we cannot give them that person's job if it's for a protected leave reason.
Sir?
Yeah, Honley, 379 Burroughs Road. So this performance merit increase looks like more complicated than my organization. My company is 10,000 people. So I read through, I didn't need to follow all these, but go through the number, a quick question. So 1.9, the adjustment based on the inflation, that's very reasonable. But when I look at the total administration, 10.5%, and that's represent $360,000.
Excuse me, sir. I'm not sure what.
So that's the second vote. So
we're just discussing the personnel plan changes. We're not discussing the second vote.
But that's the pay change. That's change.
But we're not voting on that right now.
Yeah, we're only on the first vote, which is just the specific language changes. The second vote is going to cover the wage adjustments.
Okay, now we'll wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Come back to me.
Yeah, well, don't sit down in one of those chairs and get ready for, when we get to it.
Christine Marlowe, 880 Depot Road, Boxborough. So I wanted to talk to FinCom about the one dissenter. Should I wait for the second, or can I do that now, or how does that work?
So if it's about the pay increase, then you would want to wait.
Okay, thank you.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. I'm going to make a statement, and I would invite Sheila or Wes to clarify it for me. This past year, they worked very, very hard to develop a staffing plan. They use metrics, they use workload, and we now have a structure. So if you have someone that has to step into the breach, this is a gap positioning, you still are down personnel. This person is coming in an emergency situation, an expedited situation. Like in retail, if you have a manager that breaks their leg, the assistant manager steps in. However, it's the understanding in 6 weeks, the manager will be back, but that assistant manager gets compensated for taking on those temporary additional responsibilities. This is just somebody that is in the breach, keeping the ship afloat, taking in payments, not evaluating a complex tax abatement, tax appeal court case. They're keeping things going until the professional that you have retained and defined by your job description can come back and fulfill those responsibilities again.
So, I mean, I see that I see this
I
language.
don't think any response is necessary
Okay.
to that.
Okay.
Hi, Isaiah Livshin, 245 Burroughs. This is my first time here, so bear with me.
Welcome.
Thank you. So Wes touched on a few points regarding the challenges in staffing and retaining talent in the organization. So I have a really simple question. When we're talking about temporary out-of-grade work and the 5% adder that we're proposing here, why is it only for work that's the next pay grade above? Because if we're talking about workload in general, and I'm now covering for my peer or my subordinate, I'm still doing more work.
Because we have to pick something, because it's a public document, it's public budget, so we have to pick something that's predictable and transparent, and so that's what we pick in the interest of transparency and fairness. So that's really the reason it's just one pay grade about, and it's just basically assuming that the person's doing work. Sort of, out of grade generally means that they're working above their grade, not.
So it's really not workload, it's more just the level of work that they're expected to do.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
It's not workload, it's not the amount of work they're expected to provide, it's the level of work they're now being expected of.
Well, it's that they're being asked to do extra work.
But it's not all extra work, it's only work that's above their current grade.
Well, it might be both and.
No, that's not the way it's written. It says if I'm asked to now step in when a peer of mine got sick, I'm not getting any adder. I'm doing 2 jobs for the same money, but I'm not getting a 5% adder. And I'm wondering why. Why are we only limiting it to the next level above, or anything above, really? Does everyone understand what I'm asking?
No, I do understand.
Hello? Okay, so I guess one way of thinking about that is most of our departments are department head and possibly an assistant. And so most of this out of scope work is done by assistants, and I guess for the sake of the immediate term, that was the approach that we took, if that's correct. And so, for example, like we wouldn't say that the foreman at the DPW would be covered by the town planner, right? So that's not necessarily the same scope, or that technically would be out of scope work, but the reasoning would be is like, for example, if the town planner, we were without one, if the assistant to the town planner was stepping up, filling in and doing that work to keep the town afloat during that time, there's that. But like if the assistant is out or leaves and we're searching for a new one, that's not necessarily out of scope work, but still under the purview of that person's job to get things done. And it just means that maybe we have another assistant help out, and that assistant would get the out of scope work for that time period. But this is really where we were focusing, was more of the support staff and not necessarily on the department heads.
Okay, I understand.
I just wanted to add to that. Sheila, can you explain what happens today? If we don't pass this and someone steps in and does extra work, what happens?
They won't be paid.
So again,
it's that simple, right?
What I'm saying is that let's take it one step further and say if someone's being asked to do extra work, then we compensate for them for any extra work, and not just
okay.
It
depends. I mean, I'm saying they won't be paid, but if they're being paid, if they're an hourly employee, they might be paid overtime, for example.
Okay. So. I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
Right. I know, but
that's not something that we are excluding from doing in the future. But this was just a first step that we thought that.
Yeah.
But also, I would encourage you to go to personnel board meetings where they do discuss this, because leading up to this. No. So this is a very important point. So a lot of the stuff that you see presented at town meeting is the work of roughly starting next week or the week after, leading up to the very next town meeting. So it's not just like it's a long process. as much as I'd like it to be faster.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Lee Slade, 380 Burroughs Road. I wanted to just make a comment. I am in support of this, this motion. I just want to make a comment about the larger issue of getting people to work for Town Hall and be happy and stay there and not have this turnover. Every company in the United States is suffering from turnover because of the Great Resignation and because of the war for talent, and because a lot of people are just buying out of working in any office anywhere. And it's not surprising, Wes, that you're saying it's very hard to get people to come and work there. And I just want to applaud you for reconsidering the personnel plan. Every company needs to be doing on a regular basis, and I'm not going to debate the ins and outs of this. I think sort of putting in any kind of automatic pay grade raises is somewhat dangerous because it builds in cost on an ongoing basis, but you have to balance that out with performance evaluations, and I hope that people are getting trained to do those properly. But people are not coming or leaving because of a little bit of pay, although it is good to be fair, but they're going to stay working there because it's a great place to work, because we're providing them something that they can't get elsewhere: a sense of family, a sense of fun, a sense of recognition, a career path, the kinds of things you were alluding to. And I just want to encourage you to keep thinking about that, stay flexible, and you know, we can get great people to come work for the town, but probably it's not just going to be salary that we need to be focusing on. I know you're not, but I want to applaud what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Molly Wong, 86 Stonehenge Place, and he just said basically everything I was going to say. So thank you. And but I also feel like two issues are being a little bit conflated, right? That we're talking about the overall issue of hiring and retaining talented and motivated staff at Town Hall, and we're also talking about this. This is really just one sort of technical piece of a tool as opposed to the overarching plan. And there's more to come, I think, in the rest of the presentation, and more to come in how we structure hiring and stuff moving forward. This particular vote one is really about just providing one tool in your toolbox to do that. And so I don't think it does address all of the issues that need to be addressed, but I think we can sort of hopefully vote for this and have one more tool to move forward.
Mark Marlowe, Depot Road. Can I ask a question about Article 9, which is still in vote 1?
Sure.
Okay, so it looks like it appears to be giving part-time employees sick days. But the definition is continuous work, and I guess a part-timer could work 1 day a week. So if they work 1 day a week, every 5 weeks, they just earned a sick day every 5 days of work.
So a part-time employee is defined as someone who's working 19 hours a week.
Okay, so they're working 19 hours a week, but there's still somewhat of a loophole there, right? Is that right? So they work 19 hours a week for 5, and they have to work 19 hours for 5 contiguous weeks to qualify for 1 sick day?
They'll accrue based on a prorated amount of the 19 hours.
Okay, and if they miss 1 day and they don't work like the 4th week, does that wipe out?
No, it's they're going to accrue based on the number of hours they're working, as long as they're a 19-hour, like their status is that their status is as a 19-hour part-time employee.
Okay.
So I don't think that it would reset, if I understand like how this is calculated. This is kind of technical, like this, above my pay grade. But I don't believe that that's how it's calculated. I don't think it resets just because they don't work the 19 hours that given, like a given week.
Okay, so what would stop somebody from working kind of short timing, but over a span of their time as a part-timer, and then would they accrue that paid sick day? Is there a way to cheat the system with the way this is written? That's what I'm asking you.
My short answer is I don't know.
Okay, all right. So what's continuous service mean?
Where are you looking? Just so I can be on the same.
Section 1, number A, letter A.
Mm-hmm.
Paid sick day for each 5 calendar weeks of continuous service. What does that mean?
So, okay. Or on average
So
work
what does it
for
mean
5
to be
calendar weeks
working
continuous per
5?
year. Right, so,
Or, so my understanding, to answer your question, 5 continuous weeks would be if I work this week, the next week, the week after that, and the week after that at my 19 hours of part-time. And so then at that point, I would get a prorated sick day based on how many hours, the 19 hours I worked, because there's the formula for the 40 hours and there's a percentage of
So-
that. But so that would be the sick time.
So it would be a proportion of 40 hours?
No, it'd be so yes, the sick time would be calculated at a portion of the 40 hours, so 19, roughly just less than half.
Okay.
and I,
Thank you.
yeah, I won't say anything more.
I don't want to look at it anymore now.
Kyle Coulter, 24 Spencer Road. I just want to call the question.
Okay, it is moved and seconded that we vote now. The only thing we are voting on is not the item itself. We're just voting on whether to vote now. All in favor of voting now, please raise your cards. Thank you so very much. All in favor of not voting now, please raise your cards. Okay, that carries by 2/3 vote. So we are voting now on this vote 1. All in favor of this vote, all in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That carries by a majority vote. Vote 2, classification and compensation schedule, which again is in the back of the room if anybody wants a copy of it, but it is summarized. Vote 2 is summarized on page 11 and page 12 of the warrant.
Okay, so the first item is that we would be adding the position of Associate Town Planner to the classification and compensation schedule. And we would remove the following positions. First, from the temporary per diem and intermittent schedule, we would remove the junior library page, fire department chaplain, gym director, and call fire chief. The gym director is now combined with the winter sports director. So that is it for this vote. So we're mostly just voting to add the position of the associate town planner for vote 2.
There a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the addition of the associate planner to the compensation plan. This addition will allow flexibility in hiring. This recommendation is only for the addition and subtraction to the plan and has no budgetary implications.
Recommendation from the Select Board.
The Select Board unanimously recommends, because this position is one of the ones that was identified in the staffing plan and will help the town to adjust the many growing needs of many boards and committees.
Okay, seeing nobody at a microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you so very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, that motion carries by a majority. Vote 3.
Okay, the third vote is, again, related to the classification and compensation schedule. And this is that the Personnel Board voted a step increase and a wage adjustment. So a step increase means that eligible employees would move from, say, step 1 to step 2. So they would receive both a step increase and a wage adjustment of 1.9% effective July 1st. For 2022, beginning fiscal year 2023, so that's for all the employees covered by the regular, full-time, reduced hours, and part-time employee classification and compensation schedule, with the following exceptions. So the following would not be subject to these increases: DPW foreman, DPW worker skilled, building and grounds maintenance worker, DPW worker semi-skilled, those positions. Just to explain, the 1.9% wage adjustment is based on a 3-year fiscal year average of the CPIU, which is the Consumer Price Index for an urban environment. And so that's where the 1.9% comes from. It's a 3-year average. Employees on the temporary, per diem, and intermittent schedule will also receive a 1.9% wage adjustment, with the exceptions of CITs, which are counselors in training, counselors, assistant animal control officer, winter sports director, specialty instructor, level 1 and level 2, snowplow operator, and summer recreation director. Employees receiving a stipend will not receive the 1.9% increase except for the meeting secretary position, which will receive the 1.9% increase. And I believe that is it. That covers it.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends unanimously.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board recommends unanimously because what you will see is the last few years we have been fighting over what I would describe as minimal increases, and over the course of this year, we have seen the DPW vote to unionize. And so I would just like to leave that out there.
Sir.
Mark Marlowe, Depot Road. I'm just asking about the CPI that you have listed, which is really low. If I looked at the table recently, it's not this. And I'm asking, is this set, the CPI that you're doing, and it's not going to change?
So again, it's a rolling average of the last 3 years.
Okay.
So it's not.
What I'm asking for, are we signing up for 1.9% of the CPI that you captured and put in this warrant? Or are we signing up to pay a recalibrated one done on the CPI, say, next month?
No. So at the next, so a year from now, at the next town meeting, annual town meeting, we would present a different increase, and it would again be based on a 3-year rolling average.
Okay, so you captured the CPI when, please?
Usually like November, December. It's like the last one that they put out for the year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Only 379 Burns Road. Just keep asking my question
Yes.
on the overall administration, the salary increase. So 1.9, the CPI update is reasonable, but when I look at the overall, it's 10.5 year over year. And if you take out the variable for about 2%, that means every year we got 8% increase regularly. So that's kind of big challenge for the town residents, from tax perspective.
So I'm not sure where you're getting the 10% of the 8.
It's at the end, page 23 is under education. The total other administration is 10% change, from 3.4 million to 3.7 million. I think the entire section for this is about salary, right?
Yeah, but so for under total other administration, is that doesn't represent salaries.
So you're talking about the line item that says total town government on page 23?
Stop. You're talking about the budget, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the total is 5%, right?
That's the budget.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah.
So
Sheila.
Yes.
That is budget.
Correct.
That's not part of this article.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Christine Marlowe, Depot Road. I guess I want to ask the FinCom and everybody. The one statement of the dissent was that this is going to cause the retirement contributions to increase at the rate of about at least 10% a year. So how are we suggesting, or how confident are we that these rate increases, although maybe deservedly needed, are not going to start sending our budget out of whack and cause us to have to, do Prop 2.5 override or something when, because one of the benefits of working for the government is that you get a pension at the end, and we may not be able to support that coming down the road. So those are my questions.
Do you want to explain it, or do you want me to explain it?
So, the person who was the minority, and this is not here this evening, but we've discussed this at great length at our FinCom meetings. The concern is, and the FinCom discussed this at a meeting, I want to say in February, and sent a memo to the select board about our concern about the growing pension number year over year. And at that meeting, and it's part of the minutes, and you can go on to the website and look, we do have graphs that do show, and in fact, I think it's going to be part of the next presentation on budget, that in fact, within the next 6 years, pensions and post-retirement benefits will be the highest budget driver in town. We know that, we're concerned with that, and we've reached out to the select board and are hoping that it's on the agenda for both committees next year as we go into the next fiscal year to really talk about how to control that. Having said that, the majority of the committee felt that, unanimously, the committee voted to recommend the 1.9% increase, because we also do need to balance that with the need of the taxpayers, but also making sure that our employees are properly compensated.
Okay, I understand that we want to get our employees properly compensated, but right now we're looking at 8% inflation. We have several households that are on fixed incomes, and if we can't, and you're just saying that now our pensions are going to be more than our taxes that are going to the school, which is 2/3 of our taxes. That's what you just said, right?
On a percentage basis.
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm not sure about the numbers, but on a percentage basis, it will be the highest budget driver that we have within the next 6 years. But again, it's not something we're not addressing. We need to address it as a town, so the FinCom reached out to the select board. It's been a busy year, and the hope is that we'll be able to address this more thoroughly in the upcoming fiscal year.
And do you have, I know I'm jumping the gun here, but what kind of ideas do we have to cut expenses?
That's outside the scope of this particular
Okay,
article.
thank you.
Dave Hall at 120 Cobley Road. So as someone who runs a business and has employees and pays payroll, the CPI for the last 12 months has been around 8.5%. So in real dollars, we're basically introducing significant salary cuts to the employees with a 1.9. And I just want to understand, we're talking about trouble retaining staff and so forth, yet we're actually driving, real dollar compensation for the town's employees backwards by 5 to 6%. And I'm curious how the FinCom and how your board think about this, because, at some level you get what you pay for.
Would someone like to answer that question, or?
Okay, so, that would be something that will come up as we go through the year. I think as we come to considering what we propose as the wage adjustment for FY 2024, we have to make this decision. We had to make this decision months ago. 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 7 months ago, we started talking about this across the Personnel Board, Select Board, FinCom. And so again, we've had sort of adopted this practice of having this rolling average. It's sort of predictable, things like that. So, if we come to the end of this year and the CPIU is 8.5%, of course, that's going to really drag that number, that rolling average up, of course. But also, we don't have to do it as the rolling average either. So, that's going to be a discussion between the Personnel Board and the Select Board and the FinCom.
It seems, so it's great that you're considering changing the 3-year rolling average.
Well,
right?
we aren't, but I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
In real dollars, you're effectively introducing pay cuts to these employees. And 6 months ago, the CPI wasn't where it is right now, but it was still well ahead of 2%. And I think that for most people, it was obvious what was going to happen from an inflation standpoint. I mean, I don't like paying taxes either, but there's a basic question of fairness here.
So, I just have a quick thing. I would say you're right. There is always the option for somebody to amend it and change it. However, most of the stuff is decided in January. And so, additionally, you also want to talk about precedent in terms of respecting what has already come before you, but not necessarily making a knee-jerk reaction. But in that time, municipalities are slow to react. But I guess Carter has some thoughts about a little bit more detailed.
So, unlike a private business, which can to some degree adjust on the fly, we can only adjust here in town meeting. And that requires a warrant be published substantially in advance. And as Sheila said, I can remember these discussions back in November and December in order to have all the documents in place. The 1.9% adjusts the entire scale. There are 12 steps on that scale. No one is anywhere near that top. So should they achieve a satisfactory performance review, they will get a step, which is roughly 2.5%, may vary a touch here and there, which has then been further escalated by 1.9%. So will it reflect the inflation of the last 3 or 4 months? No. When will that inflation temper and drop down? None of us know. However, the delta between the step as it's adjusted and the inflation of these past few months, I don't think is quite as severe as you might think, sir.
Next.
Mary Brolin, 153 Guggins Lane. In response to earlier comments, a 1.9% increase is incredibly modest. I think many of you in the room will be getting higher increases than that this year. And I do not think we should be balancing our town budget on the backs of our town employees. They should be paid fairly and respected for all the work they do.
Harris, 96 Patch Hill. I just, one point that I wanted to make is that inflation is actually taking away people's pay, not the town. And a lot of us are facing that. I won't be getting an 8% raise this year. And I propose to move the question.
You can't talk and then move the question. But since there's no one at a microphone, we're going to vote anyway. So you win. Okay. We are voting on this. All in favor, please raise your little cards. Thank you so very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries by a majority. Okay, we are now going to the budget. I think it would make sense for everybody to turn to page 14 of the warrant. As usual, we are going through the budget item by item, line item by line item. I will read the name of the item. If nobody comes to the microphone, nobody says hold, we will go to the next item. Before we get to the budget, the Finance Committee is going to make a motion which will include some changes. Remember, we vote on motions. We do not vote on the warrant. The warrant is the basis for motions, and then the Finance Committee is going to deliver their report. So, yes. Well, for example, I will say 114. If nobody says hold, I will then say 119. If someone says hold, then I'll say, okay, we're going to talk about 119. Good question. By the way, that is a perfect point of order. It's about process, not about content. Okay, could I have a motion from the Finance Committee on Article 5, the operating budget?
Sure. First, I would like to thank Jennifer Baird for reviewing our language on this motion and her willingness to help the Finance Committee this year. With that, I move the town raise and appropriate the sum of $24,461,365 for the operations and expenses of the town during the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 for the purposes of which funding are set forth in the department account numbers 114 through 915 and any subheadings, including under said account numbers, as printed in Article 5 of the annual town meeting warrant under the heading FY23 budget, except for Department 123 total other executive offices, which has been reduced by $5,000 to $11,745. Department 196 total other facilities, which has been reduced by $10,000 to $53,775. Department 210 total other police, which has been reduced by $10,500 to $200,305. Department 220 total salaries fire, which has been reduced by $10,000 to $1,148,176. Department 310 total other Minuteman vocational schools, which has been reduced by $12,095 to $152,135. Department 311 total other Assabet, which has been reduced by $21,766 to $49,814. Department 312 total other Neshoba, which has been reduced by $5,571 to $92,429. Department 422 total other DPW, which has been reduced by $10,000 to $120,496. Department 429 total other fuel, which has been reduced by $20,000 to $148,350. Department 610 total other library, which has been reduced by $5,050 to $159,700. And to meet this appropriation, that an amount of $600,000 be transferred from free cash and the balance be raised by taxation.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and second. Okay, Finance Committee recommendation, which is their report. The Finance Committee report is also contained in the back of the warrant.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Becky Neville, Chair of the Finance Committee, and I've served on many boards in this town, but this Finance Committee has been something really special. We all have different strengths, and as you will see when we go through the warrant, we have many different opinions, but I think we all appreciate what each of us brings to the table, and we respect our differences. The Finance Committee had 5 goals for this year: minimize increases to the operating budget, manage the operating budget. Keep in mind, as we go through the 4 budgets, though, we have 4 union contracts that have not been settled, and we have a new union this year, the DPW. We proposed increase in services through warrant articles for the operating budget in Articles 7, 8, and 9. We try to manage long-term debt via capital planning process, and we address unfunded retirement benefits and manage available cash flows and stabilization. Our usual budget process didn't really happen this year. In November, the FinCom liaisons met with their department heads to review budgets to identify any unusual increases or needs. The town accountant at the time sent out the FY22 budget to department heads with an FY23 column. The department heads started to submit budgets back to the accountant and the Finance Committee. In the beginning of January, there were still many budgets that we had not received. We reached out to the moderator and asked how to handle the situation, and he suggested creating placeholder budgets. So budget books were created, and we would like to thank Karen Gazzardi, who helped create physical budget books for the FinCom. It became clear our usual budget Saturday with the Select Board and all the department heads wasn't going to happen. So we started having the department heads coming to FinCom meetings to review budgets in the beginning of January. We appreciate the department heads took time to come discuss their budgets with us and answer questions. There was also no capital Saturday this year. At the end of March, the FinCom voted their final budget and warrant articles. Many thanks to Becky Harris, who spent time going over the budget to be published in the warrant with us to make sure all the cells in the spreadsheet were correct. We had many factors this year. We had a town accountant with no municipal experience, but she did try to help. She was replaced by a part-time off-site accountant who was only able to provide 20 hours a week to the town. The interim town administrator changed the model of the town hall budgets this year, putting support staff in the department budgets they work in. So when you look at the budgets, they were reallocated and realigned. So some budgets seem large increases while others see large decreases. We worked with department heads to review and cut what were already very lean budgets. As mentioned before, we began reviewing budgets on January 4th and kept reviewing weekly until the budget was submitted in the warrant. But as mentioned, we were able to find additional cuts. We've worked hard to reduce the budget from 5.6 printed in the warrant to 5.1%. We are recommending using $600,000 from free cash to help reduce the tax burden, since the motion from last year did not include using the $300,000 we had planned on, and many people saw large increases in their tax bills. We know we had provided very lean budgets for the warrant, and since we received 4 budgets from Town Hall the day before it needed to be inserted in the warrant, we hadn't had time to look at the budget as a whole. And as promised in our recommendation in the warrant, we continued to look for cuts. We did not want to micromanage, so we gave the department heads a dollar amount we want to cut and let them decide. These cuts will directly impact many of you. The library is making cuts to programming. The police department is cutting memberships to domestic violence victim assistance and communities for restorative justice. And the DPW is cutting playing field maintenance. With these cuts, we were able to get the budget down to 5.3%. On Tuesday last week, we reduced the vocational schools, since none of our 12 students who applied got into any VOTEC schools. The budget is now at 5.1%. All the graphs you see in this presentation were made by Sachin and Gary, so a big thank you. This slide shows the percentage that each department of the total budget. The regional assessment is our largest user of our money, and this number does not include the vocational schools. The fastest growing budgets are public safety and our assessment for county retirement. This totals 16% of our budget. This year, the growth of the department budgets shows this graph shows the growth of department budgets in the last 5 years. The fire department has been working on getting staffing levels to National Fire Protection Association 1720 standards and meeting OSHA regulations. And this year there was an adjustment to our per diem pay, which hadn't been adjusted in more than 10 years, which account for these increases. This is a new slide for us. It shows the projected growth for the next 7 years based on the average of 5 years growth. And again, the fire department has been working hard to increase staffing levels to NFPA and OSHA standards. The black lines on the bar are the lower and upper bounds of these projections. This slide gives you an idea of what percentage of our budget we can cut. The schools are an assessment, and difficult, but not impossible to reduce, and maybe next year that will need to be a discussion. Debt is money already approved at a previous town meeting. Employee contracts are negotiated every 3 years. Benefits and retirement are a cost that we have no real control over, leaving just the orange wedge of other costs where we can make adjustments, but that would include recreation, council on aging, library budgets, just to name a few. And this is basically the same slide, but not with pretty colors and in a circle, just a different format. This gives you the financial overview of the town, but as mentioned earlier, the budget is now down to 5.1%. The reduction in warrant articles is based largely on the fact that last year we approved the highly anticipated Liberty Fields. The goal of the capital plan is twofold: provide a review to the taxpayer of the town's capital needs and to determine the best time to include items in the capital plan to level the debt schedule. This chart shows the capital plan for the next 5 years and includes $300,000 of paving for each year as the baseline. That's the red line. Gary and Priya try to manage the capital plan for us with assistance from the town accountant. FY22 spike is due to Liberty Fields, and FY23 includes Sargent Road and $300,000 for paving. Revenue. The only way to reduce taxes on residential properties is to increase revenue from other sources like commercial property taxes or local options, or to reduce services to residents. On the revenue side of the picture, the town has three sources: taxes, state funding, local fees, which include building permit, inspection fees, and meals and hotel tax. Abatements. Massachusetts law allows taxpayers, both residential and commercial, to dispute their tax bills. If our assessor approves the abatement, or if it is mandated by the appellate tax board, the tax is adjusted. The overlay account is used to cover the tax the first year, and then the change is covered by all of us. Assessments this year seem to be not as high as previous years, but that is in large part to the fact that many of our commercial properties have already received abatements. We still do not have a number for the Regency, but they've applied for an abatement, so we'll probably see it before the end of the fiscal year. Many thanks to our assessor, Linda McQuaid, who kept us in the loop on assessments. She's been great to work with. But things are looking up. The property at 1414 Massachusetts Avenue is increased in value. The land alone has doubled. And once the building improvements are finished, we'll see additional value. The old Cisco campus was bought, and 2 of the 3 office buildings have tenants, and a 4th building may be in the works. 60 Codman Hill has potential by right use hoping to go in, so fingers crossed for the redevelopment of some of our commercial properties. They would help lower residential taxes. So in conclusion, the average single-family home value last year was $656,571. Town Hall didn't feel confident estimating a valuation for FY23 until December, so the Finance Committee took last year's number and added 3%. The average tax bill will be up $121 if all budget items pass, but this does not include the adjustment for union contracts that haven't been settled. The FinCom made the decision to use $600,000 to reduce the taxes for the average increase would have been up an additional $300 or more. And finally, we want to add our thanks to John Fallon for his 18 years as moderator. But John has done so much more in addition to being moderator on both town boards and committees and also many community organizations, and he will continue to do many of them. He's presided over 18 annual town meetings and many special town meetings. But the moderator is also the appointing authority for the FinCom. John has appointed 39 Finance Committee members and has always had our backs, but not told us how to vote or what to say. However, I often do think, what would John say before I open my mouth? This year has been difficult, and the Finance Committee is so grateful for John's guidance. John may be the one who appoints us, but more importantly, many of us call him our friend. Thank you, John. We have a small token of our appreciation, a personalized Boxborough Afghan. Thank you to Cheryl Mahoney for that idea. And we hope you'll join us in a celebration for John on Sunday, May 22nd from 1 to 4. There's pieces of paper at the back of the room on the tables to give more details. And with that, we thank you.
Okay, I don't know how to follow that. The Select Board, do you want to make your recommendation now or under individual line items? Select Board recommendation now or under individual line items?
We can recommend now. So the majority of the Select Board recommends the budget as amended, provided that the future amendment to include an additional $7,500 for the town planner. And then
Still on? Yes. I do not recommend this budget, not because I want the town to be without a budget, but because there are a few articles in there which I hope possibly get amended tonight, where I think that the town is not, it should not be spending. For example, the police budget, where the costs that were deducted last year on the town floor were put back. Okay. I'm recommending, I'm just talking about my recommendation. The other issue, and I could name some more specifics, but the overriding issue here is we've had a lot of discussions tonight about employees in town hall. And I feel that the budget really needs to be reevaluated in terms of where the priorities are for the town. Right now we have only 11 members of employees, including elected members, serving in town hall. That was the same number we had in 2002. Whereas other departments in this town have grown dramatically, specifically, as you saw in the FinCom slides, the public safety departments. So I really wanted to bring attention to the fact that we need to take a look specifically at how we're spending our money, what our priorities are, so that the town can run more efficiently. And that's why I did not recommend the budget.
Thank you. Okay, we are on page 114. I'm sorry, we're on page 14. What I'm going to do is read out the name. If I don't see anybody in the microphone or someone does not say the word hold, I am going to the next line. And then we will just go through this piece by piece. We will discuss any particular line when we get to it. So, 114.
Isaiah Livshin, the 245 boroughs. The dollar amount on page 14 in the upper left, to 24,571,347, doesn't match the number on the screen.
Yes, that's because, as the Finance Committee said, they reduced the budget. So what's here is in the warrant has been reduced by the amounts on the screen.
Okay, I missed that, I'm sorry.
No, that's a really good question. Basically, again, this is what we start with. This is what you're told is happening. And we decide as a group whether you want it or not, and the Finance Committee has recommended some reductions. And I will note those reductions when we get to those line items. So 114.
This is not about 114, it's about the whole thing. Where can we find the breakdown, the details? So I called Town Hall today to find out, because it's hard to kind of assess it when it's lumped together like this. We don't know how much individual positions are being compensated.
The town website has, I believe, an updated version of it.
Yeah? Okay, I couldn't find it, but, sorry?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
114. 119. 122. Okay, 123. As you notice, 123 has been reduced by $5,000. Sir.
Jeff Barris, 96 Patch Hill. I was just hoping for more clarification. Because all the budgets have been rearranged and you see increases, it's hard to tell what's going on this year. So could somebody please help characterize, these positions and what the individual percent increases are versus the overall budget increase? That would be very, very helpful.
Can I at least start with that? One thing that happened this year was the select board and the executive offices have been grouped together, so there is nothing else in 122. You'll see that that's zeroed out now, and it's all in 123. With that, the town administrator this year moved the support staff into the budgets that used to be part of budget 192, which when we get to it, you'll see has a reduction. This year, the admin would be in that budget. They added an extra $2,000 that was their salary into events. Right now, they've got a budget for a new person. Somebody we don't have hired yet for the permanent administrator is $150,000, which would be almost a 14% increase over last year's budget. Other than that, those are the big ones. That's really the only big one. I mean, the event is up a lot. It's up 266%, but it went up from $750 to $2,750. So the big one is the salary, and the fact that we bundled more people in it.
Let me just say that if you have some questions about the general salary ranges, the classification and compensation schedule, which is in the back, which is part of the personnel plan, will give you some idea of what those salaries are for those employees that are covered. The other thing that you can do right now, if you have your phone and you can access the internet, you can go onto the town website, onto the Finance Committee page, And there is a version 10 of this budget which provides more details, so you can look at those categories as we go through the budget.
Can I just say that I didn't realize this was version 10. That will not have these cuts, but it has everything else.
Sheila Hanrahan, Pfeiffer's Lane. I have a question about line 123, the total town administrator. Is that a headcount increase, or is that basically a percentage increase for current staff?
There's no headcount increase there at all. The town administrator salary, it's believed you'll need to expend about $150,000 to hire one. That is an increase of, I think, Becky, did you say around 14%?
13.84%, yep. Almost
That's
14.
an increase right there, around 13.4%. The assistant town administrator was in here previously, and the administrative assistant that previously was carried in town hall has been moved into this specific office. No increase in headcount whatsoever, ma'am.
Okay, so the 14% increase is market rate to high, it's felt that that's the market rate to attract a good candidate?
Minimum market rate, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, 131. 135. 141. 145. We're now on page 15. 151. 152. 156.
I'd like to make Keith Lyons, 571 Burroughs Road. I'd like to make a motion. I move to reduce the total salary line item in account 156 by $7,500.
So it's been moved and seconded to basically reduce the total salary in 156 to 0.
Correct.
Moved and second, your discussion.
Yeah, so we have not had an IT liaison since January, and by all accounts, it's working well, despite a few hiccups. Even if we must supplement IT expenses later in the year for increases due to the use of our IT vendor Guardian's help desk, there is a chance that there may be no cost. If there is some additional cost, the town would realize a return on investment because staff would be able to focus on their primary responsibilities and not be sidetracked.
Selectmen, Finance Committee? Okay, well, they're talking Finance Committee?
Okay, the Finance Committee does not recommend this as part of a contract. We already have an employee who's contracted with this, and until that contract is no longer in play, we have to pay it. So we don't recommend the change.
So the select board is not making a recommendation. However, the stipend or this total salary is subject to appropriation.
Could we have that explained to us? Because I certainly don't understand what that means. If we have somebody who's got a contract and this is in their contract, are they not due the money?
So it is.
Can we get a legal opinion?
John Eichman, Town Council. Without seeing the contract, it's hard to give an opinion as to who has to pay what. Obviously, if the town is contracted to pay a certain amount, that contract has to be honored, but there may be a provision of that contract that says that certain amounts will be paid only if appropriated by town meeting. So it will depend on what the contract says, And of course, this line item does not specify whether there's a contract or a particular position. It's simply a salary amount.
So, discussion from the floor on this amendment, only on this amendment. Sir.
Yeah, I support the amendment. We need our money for IT, and if it is not, it can't just be paid to somebody without us realizing any benefit from it. So right now, I think more than ever, IT is needed, given the spate of public record requests and other demands that are being placed upon departments to produce records.
Thank you. Next person on that side, are you?
Yeah, Steve Ballard, 220 Swanson Road. Can I ask what this, who is the individual that's doing this? The Finance Committee or the Select Board?
Well, I believe it's the Chief Ryder's the IT technical person.
That's what I thought. And the agreement actually, the
Excuse
contract.
me, you cut me off. He's on leave, and right now, but he was put on leave and told he had to be available to the town if need be. He is available. If we need IT help, he can come help us.
Has he done that? Does
Has he
know?
been
Guys, we are only discussing the budget. We
Yes,
are
but
not
I'm discussing the
personalities.
7,500. That's a stipend in the contract, if you didn't know that. The contract, I've seen it, and it's a stipend. And it says it's a stipend for extra work, we talked about that earlier, for IT work, which is not in his job description, but it's been done for years, since I was on the Finance Committee. And he gets that extra on top of, his regular pay and whatever, detail work and overtime and other stuff. But now he's not working, and he's getting paid his full salary. And the stipend, I don't see how he's doing IT work, that somehow is giving a value to the town when you just heard that things are better now, that we don't have anyone doing any work on that. So yeah, I don't think Lieutenant O'Brien is doing the work.
This is not about, you're really getting far afield.
So
I don't think so, because it's $7,500. It's a stipend out of a contract of a person who's being paid to be at home.
Thank you very much.
So to provide some clarity about the appropriation, so in the contract that's being referenced, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth paragraph or bolded says appropriation. The terms of this agreement shall be subject to annual appropriation by town meeting.
Okay.
Mark White, Sarah's Way. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that they were talking about the police chief, and so at least that's clear. And it's a chief who's been on paid administrative leave, but we've got a contract with him, and we have to honor our contracts. And if we start to make this decision now, then any contract that has any language in it that is subject to appropriation, whoever, I mean, we were talking about our employees before and how we treat them, and now we're talking about, well, if it suits our purposes, then we cannot appropriate the funds. And maybe that's true. Whether we should do that or not is a whole nother question, and I guess we get to decide it tonight.
Jeff Glidden, 326 Sergeant Road. What I just understood from Wes was that 7,500 is subject to appropriation at this meeting. If it's not appropriated here, it's not included, it's not paid, and that's the way the contract's structured. So it's up to this body tonight to decide that.
And I will point out again, you have to leave personalities out of it, because this would be any person that happened to have this contract, any person that happened to have this stipend. So, seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor of just the amendment to reduce the $7,500 to zero, please raise your cards. I'm going to take a standing vote, because that's going to be too close for me to feel comfortable to call. Okay, do we have some tellers? Okay, we take votes in Boxborough by raising cards and by standing votes, and so everybody in favor of the reduction, please stand up. And while you're standing up and being counted, the Boxborough Garden Club will have its plant sale again after 2 years, May 14th, which is this Saturday from 9 to 12 at the UCC Congregational Church lawn, 723 Mass Ave in Boxborough. They will have perennials for sun and shade, annuals, dahlias, seedlings, houseplants, and pots. Now, one of the big advantages for you newcomers is the plants you will buy actually will grow in Boxborough because they come out of people's gardens. You know, that's really important opposed to buying something that might grow in Boxborough. You will buy a plant that is absolutely suited for our ground, soil, and climate conditions. Boxborough Garden Club, great group, does lots for the town, May 14th, Saturday 9 to 12. Okay, are we set on all the votes? Not yet. So, and I would like to thank the Congregational Church for the use of their lawn. Lots of people do lots of things on that lawn. So the Congregational Church is a very good neighbor. Okay, everybody can sit down. Everybody who's against, please stand. So these are people against the cuts. The next item on my list is, and this is a little bit specialized, but it's really important, AB Cares is partnering with the Acton and Boxborough Police Departments and the Middlesex Sheriff's County's Office to host the Gun Buyback Initiative on Saturday, May 21st at St. Matthew's Methodist Church. It was at 435 Central Street in Acton. So 9 to 12. So it's a week from Saturday, St. Matthew's Church. You can turn in firearms, you can turn in ammunition, no ID, no questions asked. Everybody turning in a firearm has a choice of receiving a gift card to a local grocery store. Please transport the firearms unloaded and in the trunk of your car. But, you know, if you happen to inherited something from a relative or something, this is a really good way to turn it in and make it safe. So that is the 21st between 9 and 12. Okay, it is 65 for and 68 against, so that is defeated. 65 to 68. Line item 161. Line item 162. Line item 171. Line item 174. Okay.
So I move that we reduce the budget to level fund from fiscal year 2022.
What?
Hold on one moment, I might have missed it.
Yeah, having talked to you previously, I don't think that's what you wanted to do.
That's exactly what I didn't want to do. I wanted to do the opposite. Okay. Bear with me. Okay. I move to increase the total salary line item in account number 174 by $7,271 for a total of $250,910.
Second.
Mark, what was that number? Can you say those again?
72, 71.
That's in the planner's salary, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, as soon as you have a second.
I seconded it.
Okay. Discussion.
So the reason that we're increasing it is because we, the town, have hired a new town planner. Our old town planner went to Colorado to enjoy skiing, and I don't blame him, and we miss him. But luckily, we have a new town planner available, and she has a lot of more experience. She is much more seasoned. In fact, she has 8 years' experience doing the new job description that we're proposing for the land use department that's currently being proposed. So when we agreed on her salary, it was a little higher than Simon's salary. And that's the reason why we need to pay a little bit more. So, thanks.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board totally recommends.
Okay. Sir.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. Having spent nearly 24 years on the planning board, when I saw this candidate and I saw her background, we would be crazy if we don't spend this money to bring her into our town. She is a fantastic candidate. We should all support this unanimously. Thank you.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. I need to ask a question of clarification of the Finance Committee, since they were the ones that developed this budget. Under Article 4, we just approved an associate town planner, yet nowhere in the budget published on 174 does it have any reference at all to that employee.
Right, because that's a new position this year, Cheryl, so that is in Article 8, and it will be added in after the town approves to add it.
So, but what doesn't that, won't that then impact this budget line?
It will, but we're going to add it in after the town votes for it. The town's got to vote for it separately because it's a new position. We do this for all new positions and all increases in hours.
Okay, I just wonder, and that's how it's going to operate with all the budgets where the staff has now been placed in those budgets?
Budgets 6, 7, and 8.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mark Marlowe, Depot Road. What is this person actually going to do for the town? I don't understand the role. Could somebody explain how it's going to benefit the town?
Mark, why don't you use the podium? Be simpler, you don't have to walk as far.
So, one of the responsibilities of a town planner is to aid the planning board. And I can tell you that the development of the town, healthy development, safe development, all occurs because we have a professional staff person to regulate the growth. We would be sort of flying blind without someone with a lot of experience. And that's just a piece of this particular person's job. Another big portion of this person's job, and one that a skill set that she has, is she got a couple $1 million in grants in 1 year for her old town where she worked. So she brings in the revenue for the projects, the infrastructure projects that she's going to pay for herself probably 10 times over in the first year with luck. That's another thing she's going to do. And lastly, our new staffing plan is going to create a cohesive land use department. So we're going to have a better working relationship because we're going to have a hierarchy where the building inspector is going to work, in lockstep with the planner. And that is why it's a little bit more money than the old job. The old job, I think, was around high 70s, and I think this one is now, mid 80s. But again, she's got 8 years experience, 8 years more experience doing the new job than our old planner would have. He'd be starting with 1 year experience because it's more of a coordinator position.
Could you tell us where that experience was gotten?
That's personal information that's outside of the scope of the budget.
But it was a town of,
That's,
okay. All right.
So, or if I may use this as an educational moment, a lot of times these resumes and all that information can be found under select board packets for the agenda and or summarization.
Josh Dean, 67 Emmanuel Drive. I just wonder for this new person, his salary is 243,000? No? So what is it? You said 80s?
80, hold on, I've got 85,327.
So where is it listed? The last one? The last column?
So that
The
includes
rest of it is
multiple
the
people.
administrative assistant for land use, the inspector of buildings, and the other
The building and permitting?
the other assistant for the building inspector.
So you got 3 persons,
4, I
4
believe.
people.
4 people. And the total budget for the fiscal year 23 going to be 243,000?
Well, it'd be 250,000 if we approve this amendment, 250,910.
And that's increase about 225%?
Well, yes, but that's because it's now included in, you've got 2 budgets in that budget. The building inspector used to have their own budget, and the town administrator chose to make a Department of Land Use and Permitting. We used to have a planning board or planner budget, planning department budget, and a building inspector budget. They're now combined. That's why it looks so big. The building inspector budget's not even in the budget anymore. It like just went away.
if you were to go to page 17, you would see that the building inspector budget has been reduced to 0.
Number 241. Thanks, John.
And that money was add up to this
Yeah,
174?
that's why it's up so much, because again, the budgets were all realigned and reallocated.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Cindy Markowitz, Meadow Lane. I just want to encourage folks to support this article. I am a member of the planning board, and this candidate has excellent qualifications. They would be a great addition to the town and would certainly, deserve a salary in this amount. I would also request, as we're having this discussion and other budget line items, if the FinCom could consider showing the worksheets that identify each of these line items, because the backup data provides, I think it's confusing to have this discussion. People see one salary line item, they don't realize that might be 3 or 4 person salaries. So I would encourage the FinCom, and I've made this request in the past, to make the entire budget available for town meeting, but at least during the presentations and the line items as we discussed these particular items, I think it would be very helpful for the audience to be able to actually see the backup data that goes into each of these line items. Thank you.
I know you'll stop me if I go too far afield, so I'll just say that part of the overall scheme of the land use department that's being proposed has an associate planner position, and I'm done. Okay.
Only 379 Burroughs Road. So this is a replacement hiring, or is a totally new position?
So
It's a replacement for our past planner.
Yeah.
So it's a replacement. Why is add on the new? So if we say moving the other department is $82,000, and this is a $74,000, it's not add up the 243.
Correct.
It seems like a new position.
No, so what happened is we moved 1 or 2 positions into this, and then additionally, why everybody is referring to this as the need to hire an amazing town planner, not excluding that she's amazing, but the contract that the select board has engaged with this employee would require us to add an additional roughly 7,200 to the budget this year.
So it's not just slightly, it's basically you have to add on the $72,000 for
We are trying to recognize that this person's experience and modify the budget because this person came forward after the budget was formulated.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
I'd like to move the question.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote now on this particular amendment. We are only voting on voting. We are not voting on the amendment. So all in favor of voting now? Thank you very much. All opposed? Okay, that carries by a 2/3. We are now voting on this amendment, which is to add $7,271 to the total salary line for total land use and permitting, line 174. All in favor of this motion, raise your hand. Thank you very much. All opposed, raise your hand. That motion carries by more than a majority. Okay, 175. If you have a question, come to a microphone. I'm not a mind reader.
Well, I'm going to repeat what I said at the beginning because it seems like other people are having the same problem because you can't see what the individual line items are. And I went on the web and I can't find it. So could somebody give the URL actually that would bring up that detailed budget so that we could look at those positions that are all morphed together?
Okay, go right ahead. Are there any questions on 175? 176. 179. 182. 192. 192 is obviously the place that all of these salaries came from, many of these salaries came from. 196. 199. We're now on page 17. I'm sorry, we're now on page 17. Line 210 has been reduced by 10,500 in the motion that the Finance Committee made.
Hold. John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I was glad to see that we put in the warrant that there's a new cruiser included in this budget on line item 210, other expenses for the police department. I was wondering if we could get a list of the cruisers, the vehicles that we currently have in the police department, their age, their mileage, what they're used for, are they marked or unmarked? I'd also like to know which vehicle is being replaced. I'd like a better understanding as to why we use Tahoes, where most police forces use a cheaper vehicle, the Ford Explorer, and then also whether or not we've considered hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles. And then I have one other question that's not related to the vehicles.
You want me to start? I'm going to start, John, but then I'm going to ask the lieutenant to come up to talk to this. Right now, what we have as of February is we have a 2020 Tahoe in good condition, mileage 9721, a 2020 Tahoe in good condition with 17,383, a 2019 Tahoe in good condition with 36,670 miles, another 2019 in good condition with 30,103, a 2019 Ford PPV with 81,928, a 2017, which is a spare, with 100,463, a 2018 with 69,180, which is in fair condition, a 2018 is in fair condition with 89,214, a 2015, which is the lieutenant's car that we were going to replace last year that we didn't, it's in fair condition, it's got 149,194 miles. A Ford Taurus, which is the detective car, it's unmarked, it's in fair condition, it's got 92,188. A 2013 Ford PPV, which is an unmarked spare cruiser, it's in poor condition with 126,355 miles. Got a 2011 Tahoe in poor condition with 188,333 miles. We've got a 2005 Toyota Camry sedan for undercover use. It's in poor condition with 156,000 miles. The chief can come up, or the lieutenant can come up and talk about it. I do know I've talked to both the interim town administrator and the lieutenant. This year we're going to get rid of 2 vehicles. The interim town administrator said there's a way to do it. We're going to use one for trade and I think maybe the other to auction, I think he said. So anyway, but can we ask the lieutenant's here, John, so can he talk to this?
So Becky, we have, while Lieutenant gets up, and I appreciate that he's coming here. So currently we have 13 vehicles. That's what I have for a list here. And my understanding is we also have a couple of motorcycles.
Yeah, I think so. I don't have those on my
We
list.
do not have motorcycles at this
Pardon
time.
me?
We don't have any motorcycles at this time.
Okay, but there was a lease that was signed for 2 motorcycles last year.
Right. They're used seasonally. So in the winter, they go back to the dealership. They're on a lease.
Okay.
We haven't got any motorcycles this year. There's no lease that's been signed that I'm aware of for FY 2023.
Okay, but there was one for FY '22.
There was.
Okay. And which vehicle is going to be replaced? Or
I would, this is my recommendation. As you know, I won't be here after July 1st.
Yeah.
But my recommendation is the 2013 Ford Explorer be turned in and the 2011 Tahoe be traded in. And my recommendation is that the new cruiser would be a Ford hybrid police package cruiser.
Okay, Lieutenant O'Brien, thank you very much, and I want to, I hope you have a fantastic retirement. Thanks for your 20 years of service with the community, and thanks for stepping in with these difficult times that we have at the police.
Thank you, John.
I have one other question, and I don't know who can answer this. There's a line item for $750, and it's for the Central Mass Law Enforcement Council.
Yes.
And that's a membership to that council that is comprised of 80 different communities.
Yes.
And it provides mutual aid to those communities.
It provides mutual aid to those communities, and if we need mutual aid, it provides it for us as well.
Right. So I was wondering, what's the cost to the town for being a member and providing support to that committee?
It is the $750, that's the yearly dues.
Yes.
In order to be part of the organization. In terms of expenditures, well, it depends on whether we're sending somebody somewhere. The way it generally works is that the town that sends that person pays, if it's overtime, they pay for it, and that's generally how it works.
Okay. Do we provide any vehicles?
There were vehicles being provided for that purpose. They are no longer being provided for that. They were provided to the accident reconstruction personnel that we have that are trained as crash reconstructionists. They were responding to other communities. That practice has been rescinded at the present time.
Okay, we no longer provide that.
Yes.
And do you have any idea of roughly what the overtime charges are for any that when we would send our officers?
It would
Roughly.
really depend on how long they were there. If it's a complex scene, it may be 8 hours. If it's something rather simple to work out, it might be 4 hours, but it varies.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant O'Brien. I hope you have a very long, happy, and healthy retirement. Thank you.
John.
Lieutenant, I have a couple questions for you, too.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind
Yes.
answering. So I think you're trading in 2 cars and you're getting 1 back, right?
Correct.
So that would leave 12 cars in the fleet,
Yes.
right? How many officers can respond at a given time?
Well, that depends on the situation. If it's an event that requires a number of people to respond, just an example of something we had last year. We had a situation where we had a suspicious device at the mobile station on Mass Ave. So we had to call in additional people. We have to block off the roads. We have to make sure that if there's evacuations that have to be done, the same thing with like the major fire we had earlier at Swanson Road. We need to call people in, and they have to have traffic posts. And in order to cover those traffic posts, especially at night, safely, they need to have vehicles that have blue lights for their own safety. So it can vary. Also, when we have vehicles that go in for maintenance, it's necessary for us to be able to have a spare vehicle to back that vehicle up while it's being out and being repaired. So there are varying circumstances. One of the reasons we've had so many cars is, I believe, last year we did not get a new cruiser. So I think we hung on to some of the cars longer than we would have ordinarily, and that's why I anticipate that 2 should go this year.
So how many officers would typically respond?
If we are at full staff, there would be 13 officers on the department. And it depends on the situation. It's difficult to say in any specific situation how many people would respond. It really depends on what the situation is.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve Ballard, I have some questions too, Lieutenant. Congratulations on your retirement upcoming. To follow up on what Mr. Barbadaro said, and also I agree with Cindy Markowitz, and who said earlier that we should have these budget. We did this when I was on the Finance Committee, and that's how we're differentiated from Acton and other places where they just rubber stamp the budgets every year, is we have the detail, we have the line items in the warrant, so that when we have a conversation like this, we're not talking blind. I happen to have seen the version 10 that is on the website for the Finance Committee, and despite the many problems with that budget, and I want to ask you, I see a $55,000 line item there for this car, and I think you just said you were recommending a Ford, and what the Finance Committee was complaining about was that your car for this coming year was not approved last year. That was taken out. That was a $55,000 Tahoe that was, with all the command center and all that stuff added in. And so what you described there, that's not a $55,000 car, is it?
According to the proposal from Ford, from Colonial Motor Group, the Ford hybrid, which has to be marked, has to have radios installed, has to have a cage installed, the total, I believe, is upwards of close to $54,000. So it's just about in within that ballpark. Yep.
Okay, so it would be a brand new Ford, and then when you, with the hybrid and with that command center, it would be about the same as a Chevy Tahoe. Is what you're saying?
If I recall, there's a slight difference in price. The Tahoe, I believe, is a little bit more.
Okay.
So this is a little bit less money.
So would this still be the car for the lieutenant? Because we're not going to have a lieutenant.
No, this would be a marked police car. So
Okay.
the lieutenant's car would stay, would continue, would move down the line, and we'd get rid of the older unmarks that we currently have, and everything just sort of goes down the line. The older they get, the more of a spare sort of situation they get put into.
Okay, and so Mr. Barbadero was saying, how many people, you said there are as many as 13, but you don't have 13 officers on duty at any time, do you?
Generally not, no.
So in fact, if you had a situation where you had more than 2 cruisers from Boxborough, there would likely be cruisers from Littleton or Acton or from Community Aid, because those police officers were involved, and if you needed extra help, you would get Harvard or Littleton, or right? So it wouldn't be Boxborough police officers.
Well, it depends on the event. If it's a long event, a long duration event, then we will call in our own people, and our people will come in from home and then deploy accordingly. So
like Pfeiffer's Day or something.
Well, something like that. We have a lot of traffic posts on Pfeiffer's Day. We have several traffic posts tonight, Memorial Day Parade, those kind of things where we have extra people and have cruisers.
Okay,
that
so
have to
because we have our 13th cruiser has 100,000 miles on it, and it's supposedly in poor condition, all the others are 20 or 30, and most of them are recently bought at a high price. We need 13 Chevy Tahoes for Pfeiffer's Day.
We don't have 13 Chevy Tahoes.
Okay, well, 12, okay. So also you mentioned that we're not leasing the 2 motorcycles anymore for fiscal year 23, correct?
I'm not aware of any such lease.
Has that been taken out of the budget?
I don't know.
No, it's still there. Okay. And as far as the
They're not still there.
they're not there? So where was it taken out?
They were never put in the budget this year, Steve. It's a lease. We don't have it in the budget.
So it was in it's a grant. Okay, thank you. Someone answered the question. So it wasn't in. So it's not. You don't see it taken out because it wasn't in last year's either. It was a grant. Is that correct?
Yes, it's paid for. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's all.
Hi, Jennifer Campbell, 34 Patch Hill Road. So thank you, first of all, for going for a hybrid vehicle for this. I think that's really important. It meets a lot of the town's goals. One thing I would like you to clarify is we may have 13 vehicles in the fleet, but they're not all for the same purpose,
Yes.
and they're not all necessarily at the station at the same time. Can you clarify that, please?
Right, well, most of them are the only cars that now that are being used outside of town, in other words, off-duty cars would be myself and the detectives.
Right.
Who take cars home because they have specialized equipment in the car, that if they need to respond to a crime scene, they can get there quickly and they can have the adequate equipment on board with them. We have a vehicle that's used for commercial vehicle enforcement. It contains scales and other materials that are used for that. And the rest are just marked cars that we try to keep the mileage down by spreading it out among several different cars, so they're not going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every shift. They get a rest period so that we're able to keep them maintained and in good working order.
Thanks. That answers my question. I just wanted everyone to realize that these cars are not all equal, that they have specific purposes. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for answering all these questions. How long do you think a police car will last? Because I know from personal experience, they don't last quite as long as a privately owned vehicle.
Right. The police cars go through a little bit of abuse that your average family sedan or car that you use will not go through. We sometimes have to go over medians in the highway. We have to drive it in all sorts of weather. They are running a lot of the time because you need to keep the equipment operating. You need to keep the heat on and the air conditioning on and whatnot in the warmer months because the officer's basically using it as an office. So that officer's spending a great deal of time in the car, and it's being run much more than your average vehicle. The mileage only tells you one part of the story. The other is the hours on the motor. So the hours meters can be quite high, whereas a car has 100,000 miles on it, but in reality, you would consider it having more because the engine has a lot of hours on it.
So what would you think would be the reasonably appropriate? I know it varies vehicle by vehicle, but do you think typically there would be a replacement schedule that you would be comfortable with?
Personally, I would see every other year there should be a new car purchased.
What would that make the average age of the replaced car?
You probably would be using some of the line cars for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Okay. I'd like to make that last motion that I made last time in the wrong place.
Okay.
So I think that we have, what I learned at last town meeting is that as a percentage of the budget, public safety was 25% higher than the surrounding towns.
Stop. If you're going to make a motion, you have to make the motion first.
Okie dokie. So,
because we all have to know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm glad somebody will know what I'm talking about. So I would move to amend line item 210, other, to 135,915 to essentially level fund it with the prior year. And the reason why, if I may now. I heard it.
Somebody did second it.
And the reason why is because as a percentage of the budget, it's 25% higher than the surrounding towns. And when that happens, we all draw from the same pot for all of the resources for all of Boxborough staff. So if we're getting staff that, like that tax collector or the assessor are saying that they need staff, well, that money is now being spent elsewhere, and I think that was the point that was made at town meeting last time. So I would ask that we hold off on the vehicle, and this is vehicle plus 10,000 essentially. And if you run out of money for landscaping or maintenance or other things, that you come and get a reserve fund transfer if that is needed.
I think the problem you come across if you're not going to purchase a vehicle this year is you're going to start running into high maintenance costs. Those costs can rise exponentially. And the other fact is the cars, the newer cars, are under warranty for a lot of the big ticket items. If you keep a car longer, those warranties expire. So again, you're running into a lot more money on maintenance, and I think you're throwing good money at a bad vehicle when in reality you should be purchasing something new.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to reduce line item 210 other by my count $64,395. Finance Committee recommendation on the motion to amend down.
The Finance Committee does not recommend this. Police Department has already cut $10,500 from its budget and is proposing to take $1,000 out of specialty equipment, $2,500 from Community for Restorative Justice, $2,500 for domestic violence victim assistance, and $4,500 from detention area service contract. This would be a lot for them to have to take another $10,000 plus the cruiser. It's too much.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board has a split recommendation. So part of the Select Board recommends, part of the Select Board does not recommend. So it would be two recommend, 3 do not.
Okay.
Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. The motion, I think, is in the right direction, but I might further amend it by just reducing.
We do not accept
Well,
amendments to amendments.
Yeah, I just realized that that would be a likely result, so excuse me for that, Mr. Moderator. I agree with the point that we don't need a new cruiser every year, or usually every other year either, but every third year would be appropriate. To that extent, I agree with this motion. The maintenance costs, and I spoke with the lieutenant about this very issue. The entire maintenance for servicing vehicles is $24,000 some odd hundred a year. And if because you delayed buying a cruiser at a cost of $55,000 for 1 year, and you spent every dime in your maintenance budget, you're still ahead of the game financially. Looking at the mileage on the cruisers we have, I do think we don't need a new cruiser again this year. Next year we certainly will. And I applaud the move to a Ford hybrid. That's a very, very good decision, Lieutenant, and so I'm very, very glad about that. However, although this might be a $10,000 too deep motion, cut by this motion, I still would support it, hoping and expecting that the department, if it needed funding, some extra funds, might obtain one from FinCom. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Moderator, I'd like a point of order, and I'd ask Clerk Harris to clarify on Mr. Barbadero's motion, because he started out speaking saying, I want to level fund at 135,915. Then he mentioned a number as to the value of the purported value of the cruiser plus an X. So that being said, there are others in the other line. So we need to make sure, if he's calling out just the cruiser plus X, we need to make sure that.
Actually, his motion was 135,915 without any, that's the motion on the floor.
Okay, so that means that all the others would then have to be adjusted down.
That's not what this town meeting votes on. This town meeting votes on one number for other.
It's
It
a
would be-
bottom line, other expense.
I know, but he's identifying it as level funded.
That is not part of his motion. His motion is a number of 135,915.
Yes, which is level funding from last year.
Yes.
Okay, so as long as Mr. Barbadero understands that, the others will now have to be adjusted to accommodate what he has moved.
If you're good with it, I'm good with it.
So you want a level fund other for the entire fiscal year?
The motion's made.
The way that he expressed it could be a little bit confusing, but the intent is clear. He wants a number of 135,915.
Okay.
If that passes, Lieutenant O'Brien, his successor, the select board, the town administrator would have to figure out what happens inside. All this town meeting gets to vote on is the number.
Jennifer Campbell, 34 Patch Hill Road. So we did not get a cruiser last year, and essentially by making Mr. Barbadero's motion, we're eliminating that possibility for this year. And as the lieutenant pointed out, we're going to have vehicles that are out of warranty and vehicles that maintenance is much more expensive. I personally don't want to be in a position where the police need to respond to an emergency and they have a vehicle that breaks down, or a vehicle that's just not in service, or they are not able to run the department the way they have been doing over the past several years. So I really hope that you do not vote for this, because I really think that, especially after last year, we do need a new cruiser, and that would be eliminated with this amendment. Thank you.
Owen Neville, 317 Middle Road. This is in the neighborhood of 65,000, using the already reduced by 10,000.
64,390.
There you go, thank you. So that's, according to what the lieutenant said earlier, that's the car plus another 10,000, and they've already cut 10,500. And it's far more than the 25% that the mover alleged that our police department is inflated. It's more like 33% of a cut. And so I'm against it. They should have a car. Maybe going forward, the fleet might shrink a little bit and it wouldn't hurt services, and we'd have good, fairly modern cars on a regular basis. But I urge defeat of the motion. Thank you.
Steve Ballard again.
The amendment.
I certainly support this amendment. I wish it was a bigger amount that we're reducing this by. But let me ask a question about this, because I understand that I know that at the last town meeting, there was a $55,000 request for a Chevy Tahoe, and there was a $20-something thousand also. And those were both voted by town meeting to be, the budget was cut by that amount. So 55 for the Chevy Tahoe we didn't need, and then 22,000 more. I understand, and I've seen the Finance Committee's budget, unfortunately we don't see it here, but that at one point, and I want a clarification on this, that $77,000 or whatever it was around that amount was put back in. Not only the 55,000 that I know is there, but also this other 22,000. So that might explain why Mr. Barbadero had the 10,000 on top. Is that back in the budget? What was taken out by town meeting, is that in the current budget, Finance Committee?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that is, your budget is not level, and it's not really consistent with what you're saying here in terms of a percentage increase, because you actually last year's budget was this plus the percentage increase, less what was taken out by town meeting and reduced. And the towns, they've done fine. So isn't that correct? So this is kind of misleading.
Well, what's in there is, you've got to reduce it by 10,500, because we did make them cut 10,500 already.
Yes, but you ask all the departments to arbitrarily just pick $10,000 to,
I asked them to manage their budgets and tell us what they wanted. We weren't going to micromanage their budgets.
Right, but that suggests what we all know, which is that there is fluff, there is, that we get this line, the bottom line is what we're voting on, and the departments can have flexibility to, when they know they really don't need that extra cruiser, they can, instead of buying the cruiser they don't need, they can do something else, or, and so they have plenty of money. They don't have to wait till the end of the year to do the line-to-line transactions. They can, and Mr. Ryder has done this. So there's plenty of fluff in there, and if you look at the salary line, you not on the other, there's plenty there, because your finance committee, I understand that the bylaw we're going to be talking about later, gives you the authority to do investigations when like, for example, if FBI is investigating your chief, to investigate the Department of Accounting.
This is not what we're talking about.
Wait, stop.
And you could find that you're still paying officers too much under the PCIPP or the Quinn bill, including Sergeant Pelly. Right now, he's still being paid.
Stop. Number one, we are discussing the budget. Number two, we never discuss personalities. You cannot discuss individual employees on the floor of town meeting, period.
I got from the Department of Higher Education today, I got documents showing extensive fraud.
Stop. We are discussing the amendment to reduce the budget. We are not discussing the performance or the salary of any individual human being.
Right. So
we're
once
discussing total other, right?
Stop.
Once we get the truth, that salary line will come down when we have a real interim chief who is going to...
Stop. We are discussing the motion to reduce the other line.
Yes.
That's all we're discussing.
And this is totally related.
No,
because,
it isn't.
there's way too much in there on the salary and the other.
We are not discussing salary.
So I support this amendment because it's not enough. And it's a start. And we need money for other things. We don't need money for 7 brand new cruisers, Tahoes that are sitting there or being taken home and being filled up at DPW with gas. Thank you. And then we reimburse.
Thank you. Your time's over.
Wow. The police's primary responsibility is to show up. Okay? That's what we rely on them for, and show up fast, and show up as many as needed to handle a job. And the fire on Swanson Road, that was a pretty good example of having to show up. I had to call the police last year, in the fall, when some guy his car was on fire on the corner of 495. They had to show up. You show up in cars that run. I run my own business. I replace my trucks every 3 years because that's when the warranties run out. Otherwise, current equipment to repair can cost thousands. My truck, I've had to replace the catalytic converter 3 times to the tune of $3,500 a pop. We're not talking about one car, we're talking about a fleet of cars, all of them in various stages of disrepair, from the day that they're born to the day that they get rid of them. Now is a great time to buy a new car because you can get a lot of money for your old one. If they get money for the old ones, they get the best they can get trade-ins on them or sell them on the market. They go for double now than they used to. It's the best time now is the time to buy one. At least one every year. And that was the case that our chief made once upon a time, but he's not here to make that case tonight, so it falls to his lieutenant. So I say it's just bad business.
Mark Barbadoro, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. First of all, I'm really glad that we have a great police force and they do a great job for us. I'm just really trying to make sure that as a percentage of our budget, which is not a percentage cut of their own line item, but as a percentage of our budget, public safety is 25% higher than the surrounding towns. And so I just wanted to clarify that point. And I certainly don't want cruisers, you know, engines blowing up on their way to, you know, a crime or anything like that. But, you know, we have a right at town meeting to put a price tag on public safety and assume risks that we think are reasonable risks. And if you think it's an unreasonable risk, then, you know, vote against the amendment. But if you think that going another year without a new vehicle, knowing that we have 13 of them to rely upon, you know, you should, you know, probably vote for this, and then maybe we can talk to the select board about trading in some of the old junkers and getting the value out of our vehicles, you know, trading them in and then getting a new vehicle at a reduced cost. Thank you.
Simon Bunyard, 1092 Hill Road. I think the FinCom has demonstrated tonight that they have really looked hard at this budget. I commend them for the thoroughness and their command of the details. And I think the Lieutenant has given us a pretty cogent argument for why we need to be continually, need to have a plan for continually feeding the fleet of vehicles on a regular basis, not every year necessarily, but on a regular planned basis, so that we get new vehicles into the fleet to keep them alive. I trust the FinCom to have vetted this proposal and to have an idea and support the plan to replace this vehicle, and I trust the police department to not overly populate the fleet unnecessarily. So I'm in support, I want to defeat this amendment. I'm in support of the budget they proposed. I disagreed with the amendment last year to take the vehicle out of the budget. If it's a regular planned item on a regular basis, I think it should be in the budget, not as a capital appropriation that gets debated ad nauseum like we are right now, all right? It should just be a plan. It should be, this is what we do every year, just like we buy toilet paper in town hall.
Hi, Nora Shine, Mayfair Drive. I'd like to move the question.
It is moved and seconded that we vote now on this amendment. All in favor, vote. We're only voting on voting now. All in favor of voting now, please raise your hands. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. That motion clearly carries by 2/3. Okay, we are voting on this motion, which is to reduce the other item, 210, to 135,915. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Okay, all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. I think I'm going to take a standing count because there's been so much debate on it. In my opinion, that fails, but when in the interest of transparency, get up. So all in favor, please stand. Okay. This Sunday, there's a special event. On Sunday, May 15th, the Boxborough Historical Society will conduct its annual Hidden Treasure event. And this year, we're proud to have Richard Hilton of the town lead a walk of the new town center. The old town center was up at the corner of Middle and Hill. It has moved down to Mass Ave and Middle over the years. So, at 2 o'clock, Sunday, the 15th, the tour will leave from Town Hall, take about an hour and a half, talk about 8 different buildings built around the new center of Town Hall. Okay, everybody sit down. All opposed, please stand. And actually, it's quite interesting. So anybody who's interested in having somebody who knows what they're doing talk about the kind of buildings that exist between Mass Ave and Middle Road, come to Town Hall at 2 p.m. on Sunday, May 15th. Subtext, the Boxborough Museum will also be open from 2 to 4 on Sunday, May 15th. And if you're interested, once you finish the new tour, the old tour at the museum, you can get a free brochure for a self-guided walking tour of the Old Town Center, which is located at the top of Middle Road. Boxborough was very consistent. Town Center was on one end of Middle Road or the other. So the museum will also be open the 15th from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Do we have everybody? Okay. Everybody can sit down. That motion is defeated by a vote of 29 in favor, 90 against. Okay, 215, 220, 241, 292. ACO, by the way, is Animal Control Officer. Every year there's the question, so now I figured out what the initials were. We're on page 18. Line 300, which is the school committee. Line 310, which is Minuteman.
I'm just wondering if there's any sort of wait list process for students and they're able to, because I think it is such a shame and that we are in the position that we are in, that we have that many students who wanted to go, and because we withdrew from the membership, they don't have anywhere to go, but that's a sense of the meeting vote later in this process. But if they were to get in on a wait list, what is the mechanism for which they could then go?
They can go. We have to pay for it. It's not budgeted because when we talked to the schools and I emailed them, they've said no because they're only taking students in their districts.
Okay.
So I don't think, we had one student who had actually applied to Essex Aggie up in Danvers, I think it is. They got in. After discussion, the family decided the commute was too long, so they decided not to go. But if they decided to go, we would have paid for it.
Okay, so, and that still stands, like if it's between now and September, somebody is able to get in,
Yeah,
we will find a way to pay for it.
We'll have to find a way to pay for it because we don't have it in the budget, because we didn't want to tax the taxpayers.
Yeah.
We've got a reserve fund if that happened, but.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so 310 total Minutemen, 311 total Assabet, 312 total Neshoba, 320 total Acton-Boxborough Regional School District.
Mr. Moderator, I move that line item 320 be reduced by $581,594.
What's the number again, Jean?
$581,594.
So it's been moved and seconded that line item 320 other be reduced by $581,594. Ms. Kangas.
Yeah, this would make the
Give us a second.
make the assessment the same as it was last year, and yet our assessment increased by the amount I've just moved. The total number of students has decreased. 11 more students were from Boxborough than last year. And it's hard to figure why the regional budget increased when there are fewer students. And if you go online and you try to find out, you're going to wade through 400-page budget filled with alphabet soup. It's almost unfathomable. The total education spending is $103 million this year, and what results have we gotten for that money? AB used to be in the top 5 of the U.S. News and World Report ratings for high schools in Massachusetts. But now we're number 18. Harvard is ahead of us, they're number 9. Hopkinton is ahead of us, they're number 11. And there are 7 charter schools ahead of us. So the over $500,000 increase for Boxborough equals 4.6%. I realize that that's according to a formula, but it's not sustainable. It puts an undue burden on our families, who also have to pay for increased oil to heat their homes or electricity. They have to pay for increased food costs, gas for the car, and we won't talk about college costs for the kids because that's sky high too. So I do urge you to vote yes on this motion. Now, I understand that fixed costs are going up and that our school committee did work very hard, and I give thanks to our school committee and to Tessa McKinley, with whom I spoke at some length about this. And they said, well, we did cut 20 employees, 20 and a half employees. You know, half were in the administration and 20 were in the classroom. They're part-time teaching assistants to the 5th and 6th grades, but that's not where the money is. That's not where the cuts should be. They should be in central administration. So I urge our finance committee to meet with our school committee early this fall to agree on an assessment that is sustainable and reasonable. And by voting yes on this amendment now, you will sort of put a shot across the bow of school expenses and tell them there is a limit and you've reached it. No more. Thank you.
School committee recommendation.
The school committee does not recommend.
Finance committee recommendation.
The Finance Committee does not recommend.
Christine Marlowe, 880 Depot Road. I support this amendment.
What?
Whoops, sorry about that. The select board votes 4 to not recommend with 1 abstention.
Christine Marlowe, Depot Road. I support this amendment to reduce the school budget. The administration and school committee have a fiduciary responsibility to the school district where they are expected to exercise their due diligence to ensure a sound financial situation. Their frivolous spending, retiring a mascot, DEI seeds training in California, etc., demonstrates that they've cast aside any sense of fiduciary or financial responsibility. The school budget needs to be sustainable. You can't use one-time funds for operations such as all-day kindergarten, rising health insurance costs, and soaring inflation that has not been accounted for in this budget. It needs to be responsible. Don't waste our money sending teachers on an all-expense-paid trip to California for DEI training or retire a mascot during the fall of 2020, which will cost the towns between $1 to $3 million. These unpopular costs are buried in the budget. It also needs to be in alignment with the community's priorities. Don't cut teachers' assistants. Right now, they are talking about cutting around 15 classroom assistants. Our students are struggling because of remote learning and the epidemic. And there has never been a greater need for teachers' assistants using funds to provide free all-day kindergarten will be at the expense of current students who will lose teachers' assistants. We are a community that wants to support our schools, but many taxpayers may not understand how far the quality of our education has slipped. This administration and school committee are spending a lot of our hard-earned tax dollars pushing a progressive agenda instead of focusing on the core principles of school: reading, writing, history, math, and science. If you want the school administration and committee to start caring about what our students need and what the taxpayers want, then vote for this amendment. Stop feeding our students progressive ideology. Vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Eric Commissioners, 130 Flag Hill Road. Can someone explain to me the logistics of cutting this budget? Isn't it more like an assessment? Can we just simply cut it at town meeting and go to the regional school district and say, tough?
Can we ask the school committee to discuss that? Because not only would we just decrease ours, the Acton would then have to increase theirs by substantial amounts. So I think it's better if they discuss this.
I think, Mr. Moderator, might I invite some of the school administration, either Peter Light or Dave Vertolino, to speak to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
But the answer basically to your question is yes, we can cut the assessment at this town meeting. There are lots of consequences, but we physically have the legal ability to do so.
Could we have some understanding of those consequences then?
Well,
good evening, everyone. First, thank you so much for your support of the ongoing, schools throughout the town. The answer is yes.
Excuse me. To introduce this gentleman, this is Peter Light, who is the superintendent of the school system.
Sorry, I'm Peter Light. I have Dave Vertolino, our finance director, here as well. Again, thank you for your ongoing support of the schools. It's certainly been a challenging couple of years. I want to be, respectful of the question, which is certainly you are able to reduce that assessment. It does get a little bit complicated because that would, trigger some different processes. Acton would have an opportunity to reduce their portion of the assessment by a similar percentage. So, for example, Boxborough is 15 to 6. It's almost 16% of the total budget. Acton would have an option to make up the additional 84% of a reduction. So, probably talking about 3.3 million total reduction on the school budget. That would be one option. A second option would be to convene a special town meeting. And then I believe the third option, if that were not to pass, would be to go to a regional town meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I have not done this before, so I'll defer to Dave. I believe it's of the two towns if there's a budget disagreement.
Yeah, there are statutory provisions for what happens if both towns, so a majority, in a region, a majority of the members need to pass the budget. When you have two members, a majority is two. So either town not passing the budget would require special circumstances to reconcile what happens going forward. The district would be provided with a mechanism to keep itself going until such time as the two towns got in agreement. But Peter was right. If Boxborough's assessment were reduced by $500,000, it would be over a $3 million cut for the district to proportionately cut Boxborough's assessment by $500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer Campbell, 34 Patch Hill Road. I just want to say, in response to the previous speaker, that DEI inclusion and training and part of the curriculum is definitely part of my community values, and I applaud the school system for including that. Thank you.
Steve Ballery, and I agree with what Jennifer just said. I agree, and that speaker was talking out of both sides of her mouth because she says, I agree we should reduce by $600,000 what's already been reduced for the school district to a 3%. They got it down to 3% with pain, and then she says, I don't want these assistants to be cut. I think one of them is sitting up on a podium up there. And we, yes, the difficult cuts have been made, but a lot of people do not understand, and they think because this budget is 2/3 of the revenue that comes into the two towns, they don't understand that, even if priorities are, not out of whack, and I think that they know that, the school committee, that I do, but their percentage increase of 3% a year, you compare that with the towns, or you compare that with the police here, and you look at the factors that are involved with the health insurance and trust increase this year. But if you actually just remember that we were in this, many of you up there were involved, as I was, with the regionalization, the full regionalization in 2013 and 2014. And at that time, this school was spending $18,000, $19,000 per student. And one of the reasons we regionalized Foxborough was because we were shrinking our enrollment and we were paying more per student than we wanted to. And Acton over there, their elementary schools were paying $12,000, $13,000 per student for the elementary and more at the high school. Well, guess what we are now? We're about $17,000 for the whole district. So we're paying less now. We may be getting less here, but we are, it's not because the school district is extravagantly spending money. They are not. If you look at 2012, and you look, and it really, the real thing here has happened is we have more employees that we're paying there. We finally started to do some capital expenses. We're going to have new buildings, which we weren't doing before. But if you look at the union contract for the teachers in 2012, the bottom rate of pay was $42,000. In today's dollars, that's $52,000. The bottom rate of this current contract for 2023 is $53,000. So there's been no raise, no real raise for the bottom rate of the teachers for 10 years. Now look at the top. A lot of people don't understand this, including some people think they're overpaid. It was $90,000 in 2012, the top rate of, before adjustments and things, but the very top rate, before Supermax or whatever, it's $90,000. Now it's $97,000. It should be $111,000. In today's dollars, $90,000 would be $111,000. So we have given a huge cut over the last 10 years to people at the top, the best teachers that have been there, and they're, so this is something that's happened. And of course, maybe their life is a little better because they used to be in bigger classes. Their class sizes have, but so this is the thing. We are not wasting money on the schools. We're wasting on cops and gadgets. That is true, and anyone who's laughing is an idiot.
Stop.
Thank you. Yeah. Someone told me to sit down. This man right here, Dennis Reap, who's going to be the next moderator.
Stop.
He is totally unprofessional.
Stop it.
And I call him an
Please.
asshole because he is. So he said to sit down, unprofessional. It's too bad we don't have anyone. He's not a neutral moderator. He won't be.
Please.
Yeah, he's a
Your
jerk.
3 minutes are up. Seeing no one else at a microphone, I'm going to take a vote on this amendment. We are only voting on the amendment to reduce the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District budget by $581,594. All in favor of this amendment, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your hand. That motion is defeated. 422, we are now on page 19. 422. 423, 424, 425, 429, 431, 433, 491, 505. We're on page 20. 511, 529, 541. Okay. 543. 610. 630. 670. 691. 692. 699. We're on page 22. 710.
So, Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. This budget is increased 22% for a total of $195,000. The slide on the FinCom's presentation had actually a different amount. So I just appreciate the FinCom to clarify some of the information they provided in their presentation. Also, I am really concerned that this is going to be an item that we're just going to pass over, because right now we're talking about this, and I'm going to ask the FinCom to clarify what the purpose of Budget 710 is for the newbies in the community, because nowhere in the slide 13 did it provide a projection as to debt when it did the capital planning, and nowhere in slide 7 do they reference the debt. We're being called at this town meeting to vote almost $2.4 million in debt. And it's a real concern, especially where one of the upcoming articles is half of that amount. So I would really appreciate if FinCom could spend some time speaking to us about what the cost is for our community to borrow.
I actually would like to pass this over to the the interim town administrator, because he's the one who's taken out the most recent debt. But I can look at it and tell you it's for like a fire engine, and DPW debt, an ambulance, and this is just the interest, or this is the principal on the long-term debt. But I'm thinking maybe RTA could answer this better than I can.
Right, because your footnote says all that, but I looked at the material, I looked at the budget, I looked at your presentation. Nowhere do I see a protracted discussion of the impact to our town for carrying debt. And to the point made earlier this evening, inflation's going up 8%. We are not going to be able to achieve the, I believe it's 1.4 interest rate that we've been pleasured to have in the past. So our debt carry is going to increase exponentially in the next few years. And I would appreciate that the FinCom spends some time speaking about debt.
Well, I do know that we got new debt. We just took out a loan for what we borrowed last year. I mean, these are all based on things we've already bought, Cheryl, so we can't like get rid of them. But I'm going to let the town administrator speak to what he just signed a bond for on what we bought last year, because debt is stuff we already have.
Right, but I'd like FinCom to educate people on exactly what entails the projection, the long-term impact of debt.
We have a capital plan. We figure out what we're going to need in the future, and we try to make it so it stays steady. It doesn't always work that way, because, excuse me, something can blow up and you need something, but or a building needs a new roof in a hurry, so that winds up earlier in the capital plan. But we really do try to keep debt as steady as we can. Obviously, last year it went up significantly more than we thought, but
right, and this is a similar number. Where is debt on the 7-year projection?
If you would like to look at page 98 of your warrant, Mr. Carter.
Well, first I want to correct one thing. I didn't sign for any debt. These 5 fine people did after you authorized them to do so. My role was to place it out for public bidding. The bids that you got, given what's going on at the Fed open market rate, were actually fairly decent. You got right around 2.9% on 15-year bonding. That bonding of about $2.6 million was structured for even principal. That is to say, unlike your mortgage, where you have the exact same payment every year, here you pay the same principal so that the interest goes down faster. The least costly items, the 6-wheel dump truck, the $300,000 for road improvements, were spread out over 5 years. The most expensive item, the Liberty Field, if I recall, of around $1.2 million. I can't remember the number exactly. was spread out over 14. So in terms of structure and payment, you probably got a pretty good rate going on right there now. I can't speak to your long-term debt strategy. Obviously, you do want to try to achieve what we would call debt smoothing. You would pick a percentage of your budget that you're comfortable. You can commit to bond payments each and every year. Above and beyond that, you should be looking at reserves and the use of free cash. I'm not quite sure what to say beyond that. I went out and helped finance, which you voted for last year. I'm not sure what the discussion was last year. I will tell you, you now have an obligation to pay these debts. Whatever you appropriate tonight, the balance has to get added to what we call the recap sheet in November. Becky, I'm afraid I'm just not well equipped to speak to your long-term debt strategy. I'm sorry.
That's okay, but this is why we have the capital plan, Cheryl, is to try and even it out. But I will tell you, looking at long-term debt, we have, you know, library, land, housing, the school debt, $185,500. We had fire, DPW, school debt, $150,000. Paving, $125,000. Last year we did the dump truck, Liberty Fields, and the pumper, as Carter just alluded to. So this is all things we've purchased in the past. This is something we have okay. And so if you look, and as John alluded to, if you look at page 98, now that's total debt past, so we were down, and now we're like a little bit of an increase because of this year, because of Liberty Fields. But it's pretty steady. I know it's going up, but it's still pretty steady.
Right. Well, what I'm trying to communicate is I would have appreciated if the FinCom had had this discussion about what the impact of carrying debt is to the long-term budget and my real estate taxes. It's not in the presentation. So again, we're going to authorize $2,373,431 in debt at this town meeting.
Well, you assume it all gets voted, but yes, okay.
If it all gets voted, which means that this number is going to go up between 22 and 25% next year.
That's last year's debt.
I understand that. I'm saying.
I think we're talking back and forth on the same topic here.
I'm just saying I would appreciate the voters get educated as to the impact that every time you vote to bond something, it's going to increase your taxes.
We do that for every warrant article. We know how much it's going to cost,
right? But it would be helpful if the discussion took place in Article 5 before.
Okay, we'll put a slide in for next year. Whoever the chair is will put a slide in for next year.
751, 830, 912, 915, 132. That is the last line item in the budget. Basically, the motion is what you see on the slide plus $7,271 added to line item 174. Do you, okay, and that number is?
I move that we
drum roll.
Yeah, I move that we are going to raise and appropriate $24,468,636 with the cuts listed on the screen, plus we're going to add to Department 174 total salary planning $7,271, and to meet this appropriation, that an amount of $600,000 be transferred from free cash and the balance be raised from taxation.
Okay, does everybody understand what we're voting for? Could I see a few nods?
Sure. Do you want the total number, Bob? It's $24,468,636. It's up to 5.2% now. We increased it 0.1%.
Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Could I see some nods? Couple of nods. Good, couple of nods. Okay, all in favor of this motion, please raise your card. All opposed, please raise your card. That motion carries by well more than a majority. It is now past 10:30, past 10 o'clock. So could I have a motion to adjourn until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening? Second? All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. See you tomorrow.